Welcome to my world. Come on in and make yourselves at home. Welcome to my life. I know everything's gonna be all right. Welcome to my world. Oh, won't you come on in? Welcome to my life. It's known as the Tiger's Den. Greetings to all of my subscribers. I want to thank you for being with me for as long as you have, and the new subscribers that's coming on in. We want to say greetings and thank you for your time. This is from Toothless and the moderators. Welcome to the Tiger's Den. This is the voice of Cheryl, and I am Toothless Tiger. Tonight, we're going to talk about kind of the conditions and the reasonings and the hows and the whys and the whats that's brought us to where we are today. I'm going to reflect back on some of my first teachings when I first started on my journey. Who were we before we were known as slaves? Until we take that journey, and it's a painstaking one, and one that one must take alone, although you can do it in groups. But until you take that journey and discover self and the meaning of things, I don't think we're going to do better as a people. Now, I believe in one race, and that's the human race, but I'm talking to us as the Asiatic Africans of Northwest Amexem, which is known as America. And I think it's very important to get the message out, because if we don't do it, no one will do it for us. And we can't depend on other people to do our bidding. So you're going to hear words that may not be too user-friendly, but they're real words with real meanings. And if you're going to tell a story, and especially a news story, a true story, then you need to be able to tell the story using the words that you need to use. And so, although I may not be saying the words, but they were spoken on YouTube years ago, and so we know that they changed their policies and community guidelines. I haven't never found these exact words pinpointed that you can't say them. I think it's how you say them and what you relate them to. And so this is not anything to incite a riot. This is no hatred toward one group or the other. This is facts. And we know it's facts because if you go to the news section of YouTube, you'll hear these things that's going on. And they talk about it freely. But it seems that when we talk about it, it's a problem. And it's a problem that as long as I have the opportunity to do it, and until, they tell me to stop, then I'm going to always try to educate my people. People who were left out of learning for human development, for acquiring property, ownership, for knowing your identity. And now we find ourselves in this quagmire in Fulton County with this RICO trial, YSL, and the way that they're mishandling their witnesses. Latest one being Kenneth Copeland, aka Woody. And he's doing great things for himself. And some people take issue with that, and that's their issue. But I congratulate the young man and hope he continue to move forward and not look backwards. Now, I don't know what's going to happen as a result of him testifying, because the way the state play games and the way they cover up for each other, we really need to go back to our history, back to the 1800s. so that we can understand what's going on today in 2024. So I know that oftentimes we don't have many that join us, but perhaps they'll catch a section of the playback. And if you should happen to do that, please like the video, share it with someone, comment if you will, subscribe to the channel, and even join my memberships. They're very little in price, and it helps support the channel. So I'm going to start with the most current of events, which is Judge Whitaker backtracking. Katt Not Williams is somebody that I look at frequently, and I love the way she breaks things down in her commentary, because she understands the law and how to explain it so that a lay person can understand it. And so I refer to her a lot, and I have the videos that I will be using in the description. So, you know, you can check them out if you want to check them out later. Phyllis say, greetings, Phyllis. Phyllis says, greetings to all. It's a great day. We need to take a self-evaluation of self, which we do not want to do. And then she said, spill the facts. So we're going to go with the facts. And I started on my thumbnail, as you can see, with Dr. Umar first, because one thing about Dr. Umar, a lot of people have issues with what he's doing with the money and where is the school. Never have I heard people give him the credit for what he's doing for parents and children throughout the United States, and actually globally, because he's known in several countries. What he's doing to help people keep their children from being misdiagnosed at such a young age. And some people beg to differ with him. But Dr. Umar is very efficient in his work, very knowledgeable and up to date. And he has helped so many parents and children that I think it's really a shame. And that's another reason why we can't get any further than we are, because we choose to listen to people that's in clubism, and we don't want to listen to people that cause us to action and cause us to be responsible and hold us accountable for our own personal actions. I'm not talking about what we can make somebody else do, but if you don't have knowledge of what you can do as an individual, then you don't have choices. And everybody don't have the get up and go, or don't ponder the question why, where, what, how we got in this condition. We've been taught to fight one against another. And what I mean by that is the man and the woman. And it is unfortunate because we keep pointing the finger at each other when it's a system that's in place that keeps us divided. A nation can only rise as high as it views its women. And so we as women, the matriarchs, the givers of life, the first teacher, the first government, the first nurturer, we must take control and go within ourselves. It is said in an old African proverb, man, know thyself. And in order for you to know yourself, you got to go within yourself. And you got to go deep within yourself. So if you would see how these things correlate, that's kind of what I want you to see, is the conditions of the people that live in urban communities, and then what we're going through today. And does it really differ from what we've gone through in our lifetimes and the remembrance of our lifetimes, meaning from your grandparents, your great grandparents, whoever the eldest person in your family and whatever their history was. Have we grown from that? Or have we gotten better? And I would venture to say that we've gotten worse more than better. But I wanted to start with the YSL because it's some strange things happening in that case. And we know that Fonnie Willis is the elected DA, and she's behind it all. There's some great videos out by Professor Nez, has an interview with Ashley Merchant, and she's dropping some real good information on how Georgia laws works and how these people are blatantly abusing the law that is in place. I suggest that people, instead of complaining one to another, and that's good to do so that you can, vent and get it out of you, you should go to the website and complain to the bar who can at least have record that a complaint was lodged, because the First Amendment, the Constitution, gives us the right to petition our so-called government. And you do that by way of registering complaints, going through the proper protocols. If someone is elected into office and if you're not satisfied with what they're doing, you can also sign petitions to get a runoff, or it's not a runoff, to have a special election for a recall to call that person out of that position. Everything that I know is just stuff that I've researched on my own and have listened to different scholars. So I'm giving you my knowledge. You don't have to take my word for it. What you can do is hear something. If you hear something wrong, different than what you know, then, be sure and let me know, because I want to be correct when we're trying to teach the children. But if you hear something that you've never heard before and you want to learn more about it, then I would suggest that you go and do the research, because it is really worth it for our babies to know the truth. Ashley Merchant said in her interview that Paul Howard would not take this case to trial because they couldn't depend on Woody. They knew he was a known liar, and so they wouldn't even waste the taxpayers' money. Yet when Fonnie took the job, her first two assignments that she took upon herself to help boost her name, the woman who actually prosecuted school teachers, and I just don't know why it wasn't so much outrage about that. And some of those people just got a disposition on their case just back in July or June of 2024. And this stuff took place many, many moons ago. And we can say that this is happening to them, but I guarantee you, if you continue to live, it's them right now. It could be you in a minute. Used to be later on down the road, and used to be you didn't get to see things happen to people as far as reciprocity or karma. But now it only takes a twinkling of an eye or a snap of a finger, and people are actually going through the things that they've caused others. And then there are some people, it seems like nothing ever happens to them. And that may be true, but I guarantee you something is happening to them. Thank you all for hitting the hearts. I greatly appreciate that. One thing that YouTube looks at, and that's why I can get on here and talk to one person or nobody or 4 to 10 people, is they look for engagement. And so it really helps when you have the wherewithal to comment and voice your opinion, agree or disagree, as long as it's respectfully. Then we have that right to do that. That's what makes us adults and A lot of us really don't even know how to conduct adult conversations. Although we say we do, we really don't. And I could be one of those that admit that I'm one of those people. It's nothing wrong with being who you are and standing for what you stand for, but I think it's sometimes in the way you do things, and I think people use it in a more politically correct way as being tactful or whatever it is you want to be. Happy Sunday, Isetta. Thank you for joining us. So I'm going to start with Katt Not Williams, as she shows us how this judge said on one date that she was going to allow the defense to ask questions about this ex parte meeting, and it was actually 2. I think where people are not connecting the dots is that Hilton didn't start talking to Mr. Copeland until maybe July 31st or July 30th. It was 7 days before they entered court on the 7th. So whatever the dates are on the calendar, I'm not sure, and I didn't look them up. But it was the Friday before the Friday he was due to testify. That's when she contacted him, issued the subpoena, is what she said. At that time, they had no immunity in place, nor were they even contemplating offering him any immunity. And I would say they were not contemplating because they hadn't made it so. There are steps to immunity. It don't just happen because the DA wake up and say, I'm going to give you immunity today. That's not really how it works. And I try to post as much as I can. It's a lot of different chats that really have a lot of people, and they really have real nice informed discussions about this case and the different factions of the law. And I found the Georgia Witness Immunity Statute, and it's a 19-page booklet, and it really helps. You can Google that and you'll be able to, if you're interested in it, look it up and kind of understand. Now, the state, I thought they could only give use immunity, but when I reread it, it said they can only give use immunity or derivative use immunity, which they didn't give him derivative from what the state was saying when they were explaining it to him and to Judge Glanville in open court on the 7th. But in Judge Whitaker's writing, the new judge, after Judge Glanville was removed from the case, and he really had judicial misconduct, but Judge Krause decided to take away the sting from his misconduct and just say like it was something that he really could do because it didn't do this and it didn't meet this. All of that is legalese, and they're playing with our minds. We're sitting here watching a modern day lynching, in my opinion. And I don't know why more people are not just upset about it, angry about it, and not petitioning the government about it. And I know we're tough on crime, we say, and we don't like crime, and we don't like people that do things that they shouldn't do. But then we, in one voice, say that we all fall short. And then in another voice, we hold everybody to perfection. So I don't know which one it is that we tend to go with, but I can tell you that we are human and things happen, and we do want to hold people accountable. But a lot of the things that these people are talking about in this case happened over 10 years ago. They gave a lot of false information about the immunity and what it covers and what it does not cover. They talked about the statute of limitations running. They talked as if he can't be prosecuted. He can't be prosecuted for what he say on the stand. They can't use what he say on the stand against him. But if they can independently discover some information, then he can and will be prosecuted. He can also be prosecuted in other courts throughout the state, because that use immunity only covers him in that court on this case. They had him thinking he was going to have to go to jail and stay until all 26 defendants were tried. And we know some took plea bargains, but there are others that need to go to court, and they don't even have court-appointed attorneys. And then Ashley also gave information about how Cobb County is benefiting from the overcrowdedness in Fulton County. And she named the millions that have been paid to them to house people that have never been indicted, who probably shouldn't even be in jail, and who has never gotten a public defender. And so they're just sitting there languishing in jail until somebody do something about it. And Fonnie Willis seemed to be only interested in talking about any of this stuff when her election was running. So now she's campaigning because she does have someone running against her. I don't know how serious the lady is, because she doesn't have a lot of stuff on YouTube. So I don't know how that works. And Fulton County is where the vast majority of Asiatic individuals are. But throughout the state of Georgia, you know, I don't think they're blue yet. I think they almost turned blue, but they still a red state. Did it say some courts have more tricks than a full circus? A 3-ring circus, and that's true. And that's the good thing about having this thing on TV, so that we all can see just what happens. But if we see what's happening and we're not infuriated and not trying to, report these people, and everybody want to know what can they do, but I guess everybody want to know what can they do until it comes to putting their name on something and actually having to, be the one who did it. Because remember what they say in the courtroom, and they bring this up, nobody wants to be a snitch. We can see all the wrongdoing in the world, and we can say we don't like it and how bad it is, but we won't do anything about it. And that's painful. But that's also life in our training. That's why I love Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. So I'm going to start now with Katt. So that we can see the flip-flopping and how this lady is going back on her word. It's really painful to watch and to hear, but we got to do this in order for you to really get a big picture of what's going on.
So let's see what was said 2 weeks ago. This is July 30th. That feels like forever ago.
I don't know.
Can I interrupt you for just a second,
Sure.
too? And I'm sorry, and I do want to hear, but is there anything else that Judge Glanville said that you believe is legally incorrect information?
Yes.
Okay, because I want you to address that.
We
as
need you
well.
to testify. Why do we need you to testify? That Mr. Copeland had to stay in custody till all 26 criminally accused have their case disposed of? That's not true.
Okay,
That's wrong.
Yeah. That is on, that's on page 36 of the transcript.
She's not as rude as Judge Glanville, but she keeps interrupting him or trying to interject. And she doesn't do that with the state, just like the Judge Glanville didn't. It's so very obvious what these people are doing. It's really sad.
Lines 3 through, the discussion's kind of lines 3 through 9.
At some point, civil contempt becomes punitive. Civil contempt is supposed to make the person do the act. If the person's not doing the act at some point, it's just not effective. So it has to be then given a date certain. You can't just hold a human being in custody until all 26 people, some of them don't have lawyers, forever.
Yeah.
That's what Judge Glanville said. That's the problem. So I'm just being transparent. We're going to have a situation where Mr. Copeland's testifying. At some point, I'm going to be able to ask questions. I'm going to ask him, was there a time on June 10th, 2015 that you found yourself in an office with a judge? Was this person who I'm pointing at there? He'll say, I believe no. But the transcript says, exactly, you spoke with Ms. Love earlier.
If we get to that, that may be something that you are able to examine him about. And I do think that, you have the transcript, and I know everybody has said, oh, there was Brady in there. Y'all got it all now, so it's not Brady anymore. If it even was before, y'all have it. You can use it at trial. I think you can appropriately examine Mr. Copeland if he decides to testify.
He said it's not Brady now because y'all got all of that. And it still was the violation of Brady. That's just like the people that stole the money through the PPP loans. They like to brag and say how they paid it back. Okay, that's good. You owed it. But you still can be prosecuted for actually making a fraudulent claim. So it does not matter that you paid it back to nobody but you and the people that you owed. The principle of it is you violated the law when you lied and applied for monies that you were not entitled to. So that's what people kind of get away from when they like to say that what she just said, y'all got it now, so it's no longer Brady. It's Brady because they didn't get it when they were supposed to. That's where the violation is. And Brady is a famous case that's called stare decisis that has been decided, and it is not refuted, and it won't be. And you can use that when people, by the very rule of evidence, and every state has a civil procedure and a civil rule of evidence. So this is what they tell you when you're supposed to get it out. And then when you go to your pre-trial motions and stuff and hearings, and you go to hearings, not motions, but when you file your pre-trial motions and pleadings, and then you have your hearings and your conferences, then that's when you get the schedule on how and when things are supposed to be submitted. And these people were out of time, but Ashley dropped some information that shared with, they really don't have a system to hold them in account. And so what they do is they have a continuance throughout the trial that you can bring it up if you discover that you didn't do it when you should have done it through the scheduling system, which is kind of weird. So it's no accountability. And where there are no checks and balances, you're going to have corruption. And of course, you know me, I got to put an S on that balance. Where there are no checks and balances, therefore you have corruption.
If he decides to testify?
some, maybe all of the things that happen in there. That may be something we have to hash out a little bit more. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. So with regard to legally incorrect information that the judge gave to Mr. Copeland, the two, page 40, 41, 24, 25, and then the one that I cited that you mentioned about all of, you may have to stay in jail till all of the co-defendants trials on page 36. Anything else?
We need you to testify. Nobody needs him to testify. I mean, he could do whatever, it's America. He can do whatever he wants. He could sit in a jail.
Okay.
He has to pay penalty of perjury, but that's the judge. And, they also tell him how to testify. Judge Glanville tells the lawyer first. If you remember, I could get you the transcript. You remember you shaking. Judge Glanville tells the lawyer.
Yeah, if you've got a transcript cite, I think the more clear we are, the better.
Okay. It's at the beginning when Miss Love was there. Okay, so I start with page 8.
Page 8, Mr. Copeland's not there. Mr. Copeland doesn't arrive until page 23.
Right, and you asked where the former judge was asking questions at.
No, where he gave legally incorrect information to Mr. Copeland.
Okay.
Which is what you put in your motion.
Well, okay, and page 8, though, if you take in consideration, starting on line 9, the former recused Judge Glanville is telling the lawyer for Mr. Copeland. Now, to be fair, I think Ms. Bunkus, as an advocate or anybody, has got to tell him, meaning her client, he's going to face some pretty significant cross-examination. And then Ms. Bunkus says, yes.
Was that legally incorrect? I would think, given this defense team that's been accumulated, that's probably accurate, even though it wasn't said to Mr. Copeland.
The judge, though, and the motion is, calling the judge and the prosecutors and disqualifying prosecutors. The judge has stepped out of his role as a judge. What judge tells a lawyer, tell your client, whatever the words are, you make decisions, obviously, but this is how I read it. Tell your client he's going to face significant cross-examination. And you know what else? The judge goes further. The judge starts telling him that the client, he's telling Mr. Copeland that the client's guilty.
Mr. Copeland's not here at this point in time. This is his attorney, Ms. Bumpus.
All right, let me get that for you. It's when the judge is saying, they, meaning the accused, know more about your criminal conduct.
Okay.
But let me find that. Okay, on page 26, Your Honor. Line 16. Mr. Copeland should be there.
Yes.
I'm just following what the court told me, 23.
Yep.
The court said, so if you, I believe Mr. Copeland, are worried about what the defendants may ask you because they may know your business, but if they ask you about things that you might think you might have some liability with, you can't be prosecuted for any of those. Why?
Well, I think because this whole thing has to do with the fact that there was a 507 immunity order granted.
But he can be prosecuted for this case?
Which is not what the judge is saying there. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know any judge who gives advice like this. Then on page...
Well, if you are, if the topic of the meeting is to ensure that Mr. Copeland understands what it means that he just got immunity, which he certainly does not seem to at the outset of this meeting, and the nuances of that. That's a nuanced issue even for lawyers. It might be appropriate in the context of ensuring the client understands what could get him in jail for contempt and what the grant of immunity means. That
it seems to me that she's presupposing that the judge didn't explain that to him on that Friday when they granted him the immunity on June 7th. And to me, the granting of immunity came as a result of his attorney reaching out to them, telling them that he's going to take the 5th and quit communicating with his client without going through him. And we had a development to come up the other day where now his attorney is suspended through another case in another court that has to do with child support. And just so happened, this happened in 2018, but miraculously, it just came up this past week in the Supreme Court, and they made a decision and that could have happened. I don't believe in coincidences, but hey, that could have really happened. But now they're saying that he has to have 6 months of suspension, so therefore he won't be able to represent his client throughout this case. and pretending the judge and everybody knew nothing about this. So I don't know where that's going or where that's coming from, but it just looks all corrupt. And one of the things that the law states in their code of conduct and code of ethics is that you should, have no impropriety or no appearance of impropriety. And there's a lot of appearance and impropriety going on in this case, but it's not stopping anything or changing anything. So that's really strange. And then Ashley also explained about the way that Mr. Steele filed one of his motions. It comes with, she has to do with prejudice, and that's why she's not trying to do a mistrial. Most judges, she said, would rather have an acquittal or a not guilty verdict, but therefore it doesn't have to go up on appeal. None of that stuff will happen. But it's ironic how this judge is writing all of her paperwork to get rid of all of the prosecutorial and judicial misconduct and just call it little, hiccups, little bumps in the road, and continuing on. Because in my opinion, this is where we have the corrupt politicians, because everybody is vying for a higher position. And I understand that this judge is on the short list for the Supreme Court of Georgia. So quite naturally, she would want to continue the case and show how great she prosecuted the YSL supposedly street gang.
He would explain to the witness, the potential witness, here's what it means. So, all right, I don't find anything improper about that particular one.
Okay. On page 30, it's not the judge, now it's Mr. Copeland speaking. Page 5, I believe he's speaking about the district attorney, but in front of the judge. You told me before you went to the judge with whatever thing you went to him with, and I believe that's the use of immunity order.
Right.
You told me I can't, when I'm asked a question, I can say I don't recall or I don't remember. I don't know. You told me that if I plead the fifth, I mean something. Why would I plead the fifth to something I ain't do? And I said that you don't know what I did and what I ain't do, and then you was like something. So to me, telling a person you can say you don't know, nobody should tell a witness you don't know. That's all the state wanted. I don't recall, so they could get in a private. It's in front of the judge. And then with Mr. Talking about what the judge did or didn't do for cross-examination of Ms. Hilton and Ms. Love, that was Brady, as you said, evidence. Yes, I have it now. But why wasn't I told that? And I want to ask questions.
Okay, so Judge Glanville is off the case. That all would go to whether it's appropriate for Judge Glanville to be on this case.
My understanding of the law is the motivation for any witness to testify is admissible evidence.
Right, and you can certainly ask Mr. Copeland about that.
And I'd like to ask the judge on page 36, line 3, until the trial is over, until all defendants have been, I got these 6 that we have right now, then there's another 6. Ms. Stone said, no, there's another 12. The court said there's another 12 or thereabouts that are still outstanding for various forms or another, and they're talking about he has to stay in jail. And I'd like to ask Ms. Hilton, Ms. Love said the same thing, and Judge Glanville, why would you tell him that when that is not the law? You can't just hold a human being.
All right, so you can certainly ask Mr. Copeland about that.
Okay.
I don't know that the prosecution's motivations are relevant to the issues that the jury is supposed to decide.
All right. Yeah, so she said it twice, you guys. They can cross. The defense should be able to cross on this. Like, this is crazy. Call them liars out. And then there we go. So let's go back and watch earlier today.
Also, that reminds me that with regard to cross-examination, I know, Mr. Steele, you had at one point suggested an interest in cross-examining Mr. Copeland as to everything that went on during the ex parte, and some of that is no longer relevant. So anything, I mean, if you want to cross about things that the state said to him or that he said to the state, that's fine. But we have, I think, both circumvented and the whole coercion issue, and he has now been properly and correctly advised by this court and had the advice and counsel of 3 different attorneys that I know.
Look at the way this lady looked when she said that. Does anyone know her name?
That should no longer 3 different advice now.
Look at this lady here, and I need to learn her name because I don't want to call her this lady. But look at the way she looks when Whitaker says the thing about the immunity being explained properly, finally.
Been properly and correctly advised by this court and had the advice and counsel of 3 different attorneys that I know of. So that should no longer be an issue. And so that should no longer be relevant. So I would not permit examination or testimony about that. All right.
Well, of course it's okay because you are the honorable court. But I will make an attorney proffer
Okay.
because if you'll accept it, I'd like to do it with Mr. Copeland. But I respectfully disagree.
Okay.
Mr. Copeland, on the 7th of June, 2024, stated, in my way I understand the law, he doesn't have a Fifth Amendment, but he refused to testify. And
Correct.
He used the Fifth Amendment as whatever, his statement. He made it clear to me as a reader of the June 10th, 2024 ex parte meeting that he was not going to testify. He said in court, outside the presence of the jury, that he was pressured. Please check the record with Ms. Winfrey. If he did use that word, he used a similar word. He would never have testified except for that ex parte meeting where Judge Glanville pressured him, as well as Ms. Hilton. So I believe that it does go to his state of mind while he started to testify. Your Honorable Court, correctly, in my understanding of the law, told him what is his options and how long he's looking in custody, and told him, I believe, the decision's his. The legal decision, though, will trigger you to have to exercise your discretion and hold him in contempt. So I believe that the jury gets to determine that information. In addition to that, Judge Glanville was with us since January 4th of 2023. This jury is all selected from the very first panel. To me, he was biased in front of the jury. I understand what you said, that no statement, I appreciate what you said. No statement made by the former court disparaging of lawyers should be considered, or whatever the words were. But there's also going to be a jury instruction that nothing that the court says is intimated an opinion. And I disagree in this case with that instruction. I'm going to object to that instruction. And I need the jurors to understand that Judge Glanville, I will make it clear. I will make it clear. I will make it clear. I am excluding this honorable court. But Judge Glanville pressured him. And I will argue to the jury that Judge Glanville was biased. And that is admissible because it all happened in front of the jury. And from just Judge Glanville's demeanor, and I'm not here to hurt Judge Glanville. In fact, I like Judge Glanville. But I don't know what happened in this case, but I like him before this case. But the way he conducted himself to people in this courtroom, I've never really seen a judge do. So I want to ask Mr. Copeland, it is very important to me to explain that he was taken against his desire into Judge Glanville's chambers, that he was with Judge Glanville, Ms. Hilton, his lawyer. I'll make it all perfect. If I don't, you could admonish me and the state can correct me, but I'm not here to snowball anybody. But to say that I can exclude statements of Judge Glanville and, most importantly, the conscious or subconsciousness of this witness, because I believe, and I've not spoken with him, Your Honor. I've not spoken with his lawyer about it, but I believe that Mr. Copeland will truthfully say that he believed that Judge Glanville and the state of Georgia are one. And that comes out when Judge Glanville specifically says, and I don't remember the transcript page right now, but it's something to the effect of, we need your testimony. There's no we. Nobody needs anybody's testimony. If he didn't want to testify, I've had witnesses tell me, I'm not testifying. We subpoena them, come to court, they're held in contempt. There's nothing that the judge can do because the judge can't give immunity.
The judge starts interpreting what the person meant, perhaps. And she's also practicing from the bench. She's giving them case law and giving them ways on how to present this case. And that's what Judge Glanville was a little bit guilty of. He would practice from the bench, but he didn't know how to navigate through these waters like this judge seems to be navigating. So maybe she's a better litigator because they're actually sitting there litigating from the bench. But we'll see.
So they can compel the person to do it, so the person invokes the Fifth Amendment, and they just leave. That is unfortunate, but that's the reality. There is no we. So with all that being said, I'm making an attorney proffer that if you prevent me from doing that, and Judge Glanville prevented me already, I'm just telling you, he prevented me from cross-examining Agent Racy. He's an FBI agent on misstatements made by the prosecution, knowing the prosecution, Ms. Hilton, knew that the gentleman who's the same last name as the court reporter entered an invalid, coerced guilty plea. Judge Glanville stopped me again from getting into the truth of that matter. It's never been corrected. The point I'm trying to make to you is that all came out in front of the jury. So yes, I am going to intend to do, I will follow your rule, obviously, but I intend to cross-examine Mr. Copeland, not only what was said by Ms. Hilton, but what was said by Judge Glanville. I will be respectful. I'm not here to, throw some odd names about Judge Glanville. I will just be very specific. And then if he doesn't answer my questions, I'm stuck with his answer of, I don't recall, or whatever has been going on in this courtroom. But I don't believe that you should limit the cross-examination. I didn't do that. All that to me, that was very hurtful to me. And I don't mean hurtful. I mean, it was offensive to our law. That's how I took that. And I know what you said about it. I know what Judge Krause said about it. I look at it totally differently. I've never had a judge do that. I've done a lot of appeals. I know you've done a lot. I've never read a judge doing that. I've never seen a prosecutor do that. So I think that the jurors are entitled to know, and I think Mr. Williams, because he's the one who, God forbid, gets sentenced if I lose, I think they're entitled to know what caused Mr. Copeland from the 7th to be locked up. The jurors saw that. They saw that he was testifying. He answered maybe 3 questions, maybe 5. He said, I'm not testifying. And he invoked his 5th. The jurors would say out, and he was gone. Jurors come out and they're dismissed. He's just not there. We're on a long delay. I think that it is not irrelevant to this matter. I think it is more than relevant. I think it's probative. And this is the actual treatment by the former court and the current district attorneys of this case.
Okay, I understand your argument, and I am not making my ruling in any sort of an effort to protect Judge Glanville. I do not believe it is relevant to the issues for this jury to determine. With regard to whether Mr. Copeland's testimony between the 7th and the 10th was, between the 10th and the 12th, was impacted by the ex parte on the 10th. I asked everybody, do we want to do the entirety of Mr. Copeland's testimony over? And everybody said, no, we want what got testified to between the 7th and the 12th at 3 p.m. So y'all had the opportunity to have it all done over, and you chose not to do that. You can ask him about the immunity and whether he'd be testifying without being ordered to. That's fine. But beyond that, the ins and outs of what happened in the ex parte with regard to whether there was a biased judge or not are, in this court's legal opinion, not relevant to these issues. And honestly, even the we need your testimony, Judge Glanville had made a determination that Mr. Copeland's testimony and compelling that testimony by an immunity grant was in the public's interest. And so the we there is Judge Glanville, or can very easily be understood to be Judge Glanville saying we the public and not we, me, and the state. So I appreciate your proffer, but my ruling stands.
Can I just add to that then?
Sure.
So it's in the eyes, the mind, and the ears of Mr. Copeland, not a reader who can say, well, that's the public. In addition, Judge Glanville said to Mr. Copeland, on cross-examination, you are going to get tremendous cross-examination. And they know you better than we do. So they know what you did. The they, I would ask Mr. Copeland, is referring to Mr. Williams, Mr. Ryan, Mr. Nichols, Mr. Stillwell, Mr. Kendrick, and Mr. Huey. And that presumes guilt, because Mr. Williams does not know the reality that Mr. Copeland has done all these other things, like pull a gun on Mr. Watts that he admitted today, shot into a barbershop that he admitted to on the stand. These are outrageous conducts. For Judge Glanville to make that statement, yes, the jury should hear about it and the effect of Mr. Copeland. And you are respectfully taking away the opportunity that we are all given. Judge Glanville did this to a witness that's currently testifying. And if you don't realize this, because this is, I think I know your first witness. This is a big witness. He has been spoken about the entire case. I opened on him. I said that Mr. Copeland killed Donovan Thomas. To remove this, I believe, is going to be under the analysis of, has to be harmless beyond a reasonable doubt, because it's a constitutional violation. So I'd ask you to listen to the remainder of the June 10th, 2015 statement, because he's going to talk about, he already has, and if you can't understand it, the transcript seems to be, in my opinion, fairly accurate, where he talks about Mr. Williams. And if he didn't testify, none of this comes in. I think the jury gets to know that and why he testified. And it was because Judge Glanville held hands with Ms. Unlove and Ms. Hilton, and they coerced this man to testify, pressured this man to testify, whatever his word would be. So I ask you to just, I understand your ruling. I'm going to follow your ruling. I hope I made a good attorney proffer on cross, but those are the topics I would go in. I would not go into, he also was, by the way, I have based on information belief, he wasn't fed and did not drink from Friday when he was held in custody until Monday when he's in that star chamber. So I think that goes to his frame of mind as well. So, and when I say he, I'm talking about Mr. Copeland. And he was put into a jail in DeKalb County where the system was down, at least that's what he was told. He couldn't contact a family member. So I think that all that adding up to make his determination that, yes, I think that it's Judge and the DA were going to hold me for not only this trial, but who knows how long 26 people can dispose of their case.
All right. Well, that part we definitely dealt with. If he was not given.
Okay, we're going to watch this little clip. So this is going to be Woody talking about the contempt with DJUTV. It's a long interview. It's an hour and 30 minutes. So I just linked that in the chat. But this is where he starts talking about.
I call my people like, hey, look, y'all put money on the phone and money on my book. They listen to my car. I know they listen. They see that I'm getting comfortable. They remove me from that jail and put me in the DeKalb County.
So at first they put him with general population. And as soon as he's starting to get access to maybe something that he could use to buy some food and water, what do they do?
In jail and put me in the whole dorm by myself with no water, no TV, no phone, no nothing. No books to read, no nothing. So I'm like, dang. The next day, hey, can I get a pen on the phone? Or the system down. But y'all still putting people in. Everybody use the phone but me. Can y'all put TV on or the TV don't work? If feces in the toilet, I gotta walk around like this the whole 24 hours. Can I get something to clean this up? I gotta clean the whole dorm just to get the smell out.
And remember, he's there for contempt. He's not there because he was convicted of something or for something that warrants punishment.
The toilet ain't working. It's full of waste. I was comfy bad for me. Fill it up with bleach. I bleached this thing down so bad that bleach was stuck in my nose. 5 hours later, that stink again. Flies. Can't eat the food. I didn't eat Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday morning, they came for me. They were looking for me. They couldn't find me. So when they finally found me, I had came out the room. They like, where you been? We're looking for you. I said, in the only place y'all put me in here. I'm weak. I haven't ate. I haven't drank anything. No nothing. They're like, well, you got court. What I'm going to court for? I didn't know I had to go back to court. So they took me back to the court. And that's when they did all the bullshit stuff that I can't talk about right now. And then I'm explaining to the judge, the DA, I'm weak. I haven't eaten since Friday. I haven't drank anything. The jail is torturing me. I haven't talked to my family. No nothing. They're like, okay. So one of the officers, he felt bad.
So he's going to go on to talk about how one of the officers gives him apple juice and tries to give him some snacks, but he hasn't eaten in so long that, sometimes when it's been a while, you feel a little queasy because you haven't eaten. And even though you should be eating something, you got to like sip your way back into it. So he ends up like sipping on some apple juice before he ends up later wanting to eat anything. That's how he was held. And I didn't get the impression that he was lying about this in this interview.
He gave me like some food, but it was like, the food that they feed the deputies. And he gave me a lot of apple juice so I could get my immunity back. I couldn't eat the food. I just drank apple juice. So he stopped drinking. He kept giving me apple juice. This is the only person that had sympathy for me was the officer. So I'm telling this to the judge, man, I'm weak. I need to go to the hospital, man. That man's going 3 days without eating anything or drinking anything. I can't even stand up, and y'all gonna force me back in here. So I want to talk about so much so bad. Because I know they're gonna try to shut me up. They're gonna probably try to put fake charges on me soon.
Can I speak? Am I covered federally? Because this interview was before Monday and Tuesday of this week. So again, this is a full hour and 30 minutes. He talks about his life story and growing up. When I get a second, I'll edit and put it in the description as well. Like, obviously, this is live. You guys are chatting with me, but anyone in replay crew, I'll add it to the description. I listened to the whole thing. I thought it was a good listen. It was a great interview. So shout out to DJU TV for letting Woody speak and like give us some insight on what's going on here. But yeah, you hear all that. And if we toggle back to what was going on today, where the defense is saying, we believe he was coerced. We had no food and water. So when he comes in, he's brought back in. And Woody just said he didn't know he had to go back to court back in June. He thought he was good doing the contempt and was just going to be stuck in that jail, in that cell. They bring him back. He has no food and water while he's sitting there in that ex parte meeting with standing counsel. It was pretty similar to that one, you guys put it in the chat. Just like that interview that started at 3 a.m. And then, remember, that happened, it says 6 days ago on YouTube. It happened before Monday and Tuesday, and Judge Whitaker's denial reason was, you guys should have put that in your other motions. Well, they just became aware of it. Partially because you didn't really let them do much questioning on it. And you certainly didn't let them put Hilton on the stand. You certainly didn't let them put Glanville on the stand to ask them questions.
Or you have reason to believe he was not given food or drink between Friday and Monday. That's something that certainly should have been raised in the coercion motions that several of you filed, because that might have impacted between the 10th and the 12th. But again, you all decided you wanted the testimony between the 10th and the 12th. And that was a strategic decision on your part because you believed that there were beneficial things that he said during that testimony. I think that advice that these defendants through their attorneys would vigorously cross-examine Mr. Copeland is correct and accurate advice, and that these defendants know him better than the state's attorneys know him or anybody else is not inaccurate as well. If you would like to, understanding the parameters of my ruling, provide some questions that you believe should appropriately be asked, I'm happy to consider those. And it may be that there are, you can absolutely, again, ask him about the immunity grant and even right now, whether he is only doing this because it's avoiding jail for him. That's fine. You can explore that completely. All right.
You say it's Mr. Shard all the time, and I always tell him, don't say okay, because it's like you're waiving it. So no, it's not.
By which I mean, all right, do you understand? All right, do you accept my ruling? Because I know you will abide by it, but you do not agree with the correctness of it.
Yes. And then the last thing I'd like to say, if I may.
Yeah.
When the Honorable Court said I didn't take up the opportunity to strike the entire testimony from the June 10th to the 12th, that's the law. The law is until that motion is filed of recusal. So I'm following the law, and there were beneficial points. Just read the transcript where he testified under pressure or not, but that is in the case. So I believe that I have a right to ask him about those days before you took over, before you gave him the proper admonitions and the correct law. So that's
okay. Thank you. So that the record is clear, I am suggesting that obviously the law with regard to the timing once a recusal motion has been granted, what you have to undo. Yes. What I'm saying is if you believed that there was coercion starting at some point earlier than that, based on a lack of food and drink or any kind of treatment like that, then that could have been brought up. And y'all chose not to bring that up or not to make that.
And to be fair, Steele could have said that, this is 6 days ago, it was after we did these motions. But still, he said, upon information and belief, I now know. And then Doug Weinstein does come in later and say, look, we just found out about this. It's new. We couldn't have put it in these other motions. Maybe we'll get some new motions on it.
That argument. And you all could have agreed to redo the entirety of the testimony, or you could have asked to redo the entirety of the testimony on the basis of it having been coerced, and I would have considered that.
Well, at the time, I was following the court's order, which I didn't think I even needed an order, but that I could cross-examine Mr. Copeland on everything that happened on the ex parte meeting. And that's when I made my ruling, well, not ruling, sorry. That's when I said I don't want it out. In addition to that, I didn't want it out because I want to cross-examine him on why he did it. It's part why he testified from the 10th to the 12th. That's part of the case, and I think that it goes to the jurors. The jurors are entitled to know who the prosecutors are and who the judge was. And it goes to their bias, their interest in the case, and their motivation on how they are prosecuting this case. So.
Okay, I don't think that any order that I issued led you to believe that you would be able to, well, it may have led you to believe, but I don't think it should have reasonably led you to believe that you would be able to explore anything about what Judge Glanville said or did during that ex parte.
I think that it was clear to me, whether you said or not, the way I understand the rules, that that's a part of this case, that's a part of this witness, and that it comes out on cross or direct examination. The prosecutors didn't sit here and say, now, maybe they're going to do it. I have no reason to believe that they are or not. But Mr. Copeland, we had a misunderstanding on June 10th, and we had a meeting with the judge, and your lawyer was there the whole time. They could do all that as well. But I don't see handcuffing Mr. Williams' lawyer on cross-examination when it is a reality. Just like Mr. Copeland went out and spoke on a jail call and made statements about things. That's his state of mind at the time. It may be relevant. I think it's relevant here. I think it's relevant that Judge Glanville did this and Miss Hilton did this.
You can ask about anything Miss Hilton did.
No, I understand you did not limit that, but you're limiting the way I heard you today. I have to almost excise Judge Glanville, and that's what I'm objecting.
All right. Yes, sir.
Just so I'm clear with what the court just ruled, we can ask about things that Miss Hilton said to Mr. Copeland during the ex parte meeting. We just can't label an ex parte. This is what I'm concerned with. There's a lot of confusion and I think misunderstanding of this immunity. I understand the order that was granting him use and derivative use immunity. However, Ms. Hilton articulated to Mr. Copeland in chambers much more than that. For instance, my understanding of law, and Your Honor, I know that you've dealt with these issues more than me, the statute of limitations is not what we normally think it to be. It's not from the date of the offense. It's told if there's no evidence of who committed the offense. Mm-hmm. That's one, the perpetrator has to be known. So Ms. Hilton said, for instance, we'll use the barbershop shooting. Ms. Hilton said, all this stuff is older than 4 years, so you can never be prosecuted. That he could be prosecuted for the barbershop shooting.
But here's the thing:
they would just have to put a tolling provision.
That's not relevant either, because it is not the fact that the statute of limitations may or may not have run that prevents the state from prosecuting him for something he wants to get on the stand and confess to. It is the grant of immunity that prevents that. So regardless of the correctness or incorrectness of statute of limitations comments, they cannot use anything he gets on the stand and confesses to because they granted him immunity.
Now, we looked at that a bit yesterday, and from the verbiage, it seems like he cannot be compelled to provide testimony or produce other evidence that could be used by another court. So I still think this right here, what Whitaker is saying right here, is still also incorrect, or at least incomplete. It might be correct if we make the assumption that she's only speaking about this particular court, but she doesn't really state that explicitly.
Or the court has granted him immunity.
But in my mind, here's the difference. The state has made a deal with the, quote, I'm not calling the man the devil, but that's to say. And there's a difference between them saying, we're giving you use and derivative use immunity versus them saying, we will absolutely not prosecute you. They have basically, I don't know if they checked with Ritomi Kwan's father, but they basically given this man carte blanche to never be prosecuted for anything he says. And if I was representing Kenneth Copeland later on and they indicted him for something like this, I would say, y'all must be crazy. Y'all got in the back room and told this man, you guys are never prosecuting him. So they've done more than giving him use immunity. They've given him blanket immunity for everything. And that, to me, is fertile ground for impeachment and cross-examination. And I think the jury needs to know they want Jeffrey Williams, they want Shannon Stillwell, they want these people so bad that they gave Mr. Copeland just full reign to run around Atlanta, do all these things, and as long as you get up on the stand, we're never going to prosecute you. And I think that's relevant.
Okay, well, they didn't give him full reign to go do things he hasn't done yet. So, let's not get too far afield with this.
They made him think he had full reign. He might not have believed them. He might not have bought that. But they led him on to believe that he was good in the clear for anything. So let's not mince words, Ms. Whitaker.
So you may explore any kind of interest he might have in testifying in a way that might be beneficial to the state, although I don't think that's happened anyway, because you could explore bias. You're entitled to do that. But we're not going to, this is not a trial about how the state handled Mr. Copeland or how Judge Glanville handled Mr. Copeland. This is a trial about whether these defendants, whether the state can prove that these defendants committed the acts that they allege them to have committed. And if you want, again, you also, all of you all are welcome if you want to give me a list of questions that or that you believe should be able to be asked. I can look at them.
Very well, Your Honor.
All
right. Go ahead.
I just want to raise something.
Sure.
While you hopefully reconsider. And this was mostly, the prosecutors. I think Mr. Atkins, I was going to exclude him, but I think he did it too. They asked witnesses to my knowledge, without any basis. Well, you're testifying this way, but have you ever had to testify before in front of Mr. Williams? When you were giving your statements, was Mr. Williams present? And then they did it with everybody. Was Mr. Huey present?
Right.
And I've objected every time. And it's totally, that's a crime of witness intimidation without any evidence. It's just, and they say, no, I haven't testified at all, but I don't remember, or I told you something wrong, or I didn't say that to you. I want to do now and show what the state is doing to witnesses. And I'm telling you, Your Honor, when Mr. Zachary comes, and I brought this up earlier in a pretrial meeting, my understanding is that Ms. Love had him served, he being Mr. Zachary, served with a subpoena.
Okay.
It's a trial subpoena from what I was told. Ricky Richardson was his lawyer at that time. Ms. Love ordered Mr. Zachary the day before to drive from Augusta, Georgia, miss his job, to her office because she said if he doesn't come, Judge Glanville will lock him up. There was no trial going on. This was 2023. We were doing jury selection. I heard about that, so I raised it to Judge Glanville. This is abuse of power. You don't order somebody to come to your office with the hammer of the judge going to lock you up. Judge Glanville said, put out your evidence. He gave me opportunity. Everybody said they didn't want to testify, so I didn't call anybody. Ricky Richardson, I didn't call anybody, so I forfeited the motion. But my point is to say that somehow there's witness intimidation from Mr. Williams et al. I want to show what's really going on, and that ex parte meeting helps illustrate it. I will also ask Mr. Zachary, because I'm confident he'll know it was not attorney-client privilege, because it didn't just come from Mr. Richardson. He told me you can also speak with Mr. Zachary, with Mr. Richardson, and he'll tell you the same. That's all we spoke about coming to court. And he did come to the courthouse. I'm told that his father met him there too. This could be wrong because I'm not there. And then his father said, the law, there's no trial going on. My son's leaving. So that's what, there was no conversation. Okay. But my point is, this is not an isolated incident, and I'd like you to just allow the truth to flow. I'm not going to hurt Judge Glanville. I'm just going to state what was said. That's it. And it's really the
Look at the closed caption. Not Judge Glambo.
impact, like you said, on Mr. Copeland.
All right, thank you. Sure. Do you want to wait and see what Mr. Weinstein has to say first?
Okay. Briefly, Your Honor. The discussion this morning came up about Mr. Copeland being deprived of food and water at Rice Street, as well as conditions, other issues that happened at Rice Street between June 7th and June 10th. And I believe the court said, I may have misunderstood you, that several attorneys filed motions regarding the coercion in the chambers. Perhaps this is something that we should have brought up. I was completely unaware that happened.
Well, it's not, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm not sure it did happen. He has some reason he thinks it may have happened.
Okay.
He Mr. Steele,
So,
but okay.
So I did not learn of this.
Whitaker cannot relate to what people go through at all. Oh, I've never experienced that, so I'm going to doubt when someone tells me that that's what happened to somebody else, or that somebody would do something to somebody else. I'm going to doubt it because I've never experienced it, and that's so frustrating. But you're a judge that sat over plenty of cases with regular people. You can't just sit up there and make your rulings based on your personal experience.
Possibly happening then, let's put it that way, until I saw Mr. Copeland on social media this week. So this isn't something that I could have brought up regarding Judge Lanville and the coercion that took place. So if we do get further facts of that, I would like to bring that up with the court again, because it sounds like that could have influenced your decision on the coercion.
And you know how they could get further facts on that? You guys put it in the chat. How can they get further facts on if Woody wasn't given food or water and was held in certain conditions between June 7th and June 10th? How could they, what's the best way that they could get the facts on that? There you go. Let them ask Woody on cross-examination about these things that the judge does not want them to be able to ask about. Exactly. This whole argument this morning is to limit the scope of cross-examination. You could just ask him. Just ask him. And yeah, you could look at the videos in jail. That's another literal way. But relating to this issue this morning, don't limit what they can ask him on cross. Let them ask what they should be able to ask on cross. Why is Judge Whitaker pushing so hard against the scope of what cross can be about? Like, it's just nuts. It's just nuts. There you go. There you go, Susan. They don't want it out.
Perhaps not, but I would like to bring it up in the future.
All right, thank you. Mr. Engelberger.
And thank you guys, the whole chat, for being willing on the lunch break to go back to watch the stuff from July 30th, pair it up, line it up against what was said today on, we are on August 16th. What Judge Whitaker said this morning did not match what she told the defense on July 30th. And those things that she said on July 30th were things that she used the defense used in their consideration while they decided, well, do we want to strike all of Woody's testimony? Are we okay with striking it on June 12th? So they made certain decisions based upon the expectation that Whitaker gave them back on July 30th, that they'd be able to ask certain questions within the scope of cross-examination. And this morning she tried to, in my opinion, severely limit what they could elicit through cross-examination questions from Woody. And Woody, again, he might try to say it himself. It seems like Brian Steele might try to wedge in some of these questions either way. And I think he's very skillful. I think he can find a way to ask certain questions where it may seem like he's only asking about Hilton, but expects that the witness, Copeland, might give an answer that explains what everybody in that room was doing. So therefore, it will be Woody that brings up Glanville, or Glambo, as the closed captions are saying, and he won't actually have to put that in his questions. So I do still think we'll find a way to get that questioning, but for the judge to limit it at all is just so insane. It turned my stomach this morning. It turned my stomach even more seeing it mismatch what she told us on July 30th. Just nuts. No She Do It says, Woody said it on the stand Monday and was ignored. Yeah, he tried to speak. When he says something like, can I speak? He's about to say he doesn't like something that was going on that was done to him. And when he tries to talk about certain things, it gets steamrolled over, it gets ignored. We'll just have to see with Cross if that changes a little.
So we now know how this woman went back on backtracking, and now she's not wanting them to cover what they should be covering. That she gave them permission on July 30th, but here just the other day, I think it was the 16th, he backtracked. So now, we've done that. Let's go on. This is Dr. Umar did this 9 years ago, and I want y'all to listen to the message. I'll talk about the messenger, once you hear the message. But I really would like for you all to hear the message and then just look around your urban cities and wherever you live and see what the plight and the condition of the young people are today. So here we go. And I had to speed it up because one of them didn't allow for closed caption.
Remember, I work for myself. I'm self-employed. I don't work for the school district. So I can call the shots as I see them because I'm not home.
He's talking about the school district, the miseducation, and how our children are treated as guinea pigs. And that is so very true. Maybe not in the sense in which it is exactly being said. It's not just metaphorically, it is actually literally. So let's listen as he helps us understand some things. And the name of this video, I have it in the description, Dr. Umar Johnson, Psycho-Academic War Against Black Boys.
To anyone for a paycheck, the average black psychologist is. Yes, sir. Okay? It's ridiculous that I'm the first one to make parents know that schools get paid for special ed. It's ridiculous that I'm the first one to make you guys know that the learning disability is a fabrication and ADHD is a straight up lie. There's other black psychologists who know that. But again, they're aligned with the power structure, and I'm not. Now, let's go ahead and get into this presentation right here. Okay? There's a war against black boys in the United States of America. Not just in the United States of America. That war is in London. It is all throughout Europe. And of course, I'll be in London next week. And then, I'll be in London the second week of December. And then I go over to the Netherlands, Amsterdam, the second week of December. They're dealing with the miseducation. Down in South America, where I go, they're dealing with miseducation. The Caribbean is dealing with miseducation. Even in Africa, they have special ed and ADHD now in certain parts of Africa. So this is a global war against black boys. 5-6 stages in this war. The first stage is miseducation. Deliberate miseducation of black boys from birth until approximately the 3rd grade. It's on purpose. I need you guys to understand that. Because I not only speak to you as a school psychologist, I speak to you as a school principal. Okay? The miseducation is on purpose. It's not because the schools are boys. It's not because the teachers are uncertified. It's not because the mothers are unmarried. And it's not because the boys' pants are sagging. It is by design that the schools fail. And why must the schools fail by design? Because education is the most revolutionary process in any society. If it is done right, you automatically transform the oppressed. Are y'all following me? Yes, sir. If education is done right, you transform the oppressed into an empowered individual who now has the capability to take authority from his oppressor, if done right. And that's why so much attention is paid to the education of African children, because if the miseducation is not done right, white supremacy is being exterminated. That's why 93% of the teachers in this country are white female. That is by design. And they will never change that. As long as the handmaiden of white supremacy, the middle class white female, is responsible for the education of the leader of the black revolution, the young black man, there will never be a revolution. So we need to understand first and foremost, education, like psychology, isn't so much about the curriculum. isn't so much about the textbooks. It's about the person who's responsible for being the conduit of the information. And unfortunately, when we talk about education, we spend more time on the curriculum than the person who's responsible for delivering it. Are y'all following me? Now, I'm a therapist as well as an educator. Now, as a therapist, it doesn't matter how good I am at my trade. Let me take that back. It doesn't matter where I graduated from college. I can be a magna summa cum laude Harvard University graduate, or Howard. I can have all the degrees and credentials. But if your child is suffering from depression, or if you are suffering from depression, you come to me for therapy. My education don't matter. The only thing that matters is whether or not you feel, as my client, number one, that I give a damn. Number two, comfortable enough to let me into your personal life. And number three, have faith in my ability to help transform you. That's right. The degrees stop at the door. Teaching is the same way. A child, through their spidey senses that we call spiritual intuition, can pick up on whether the teacher cares about it or not in the first 30 seconds of class. Are y'all following me? That's right. So when you talk about education, you cannot start with curriculum. You have to start with personnel. Let me give you an example. If I had to choose between two scenarios, one scenario, the perfect curriculum, the worst teachers. Another scenario, the best teachers, the worst curriculum. Guess which one I'm taking? Give me the teachers. Because if the curriculum stinks, it will transform it on their own. It comes down to the personnel. I just quit a principal job up in Pennsylvania about a month ago because I wasn't being allowed to make the decisions that I needed to make to improve education for the children. But one of the biggest challenges that black principals have is that we're often put in schools where we don't select who works in it. Are y'all following me? That's right. They give us a school already selected. This is the math teacher. This is the reading coach. This is the counselor. This is the school psychologist. And you're expected to win a war with soldiers you did not choose. Right. And that's one of the biggest problems in public education. We got some good black principals out there. But they're scared to do the right thing. Why? Because everybody knows that the teacher union is like the mafia of education. And if you piss off too many white teachers in the same building, they will sit the union on you. And next thing you know, the good black principal is being fired or forced to resign because he ain't doing what the teachers want. In education, you'll find it is the only profession in America where the leader, the supervisor, must follow the people they are supervising. So after they deliberately miseducate the black boy, and everything I speak on is relevant to the girls as well. It's relevant to the ladies as well. It's just that it's more aggressive against the young men. I want y'all to be clear about that. Then they want to special educate. Let's get into that. Special education. What is so special about special education? Absolutely nothing. All right. Special, I'll put SPED, that's the abbreviation. Special education is a federal law. It's from the United States Congress that was passed in 1975. It was called the Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act. Excuse me, that's what it's called now. The original name was the Education for All Handicapped Children Act. Okay, EHCA, Public Law 94-142, United States Congress, 1975. They said any child with a disability.
Now what he did was gave you the public law and then gave you the reference as to where you can go and look that up and start studying it for yourself if that's a topic that interests you. One of the good things about information is you don't have to know it all, you don't have to memorize it all, but you should be able to go and find the information in which you seek to verify, affirm, clarify, or disprove or dispel whatever it is that your conversation or your subject matter is. So let's continue.
Had a right to receive a free education at public expense and that they could not be excluded from school. Up until 1975, in certain states, if a child was autistic, mentally retarded, language disabled, blind, deaf, the school would simply tell you, we don't have the services your child needs, keep them home, or better yet, you better find some money and pay for a private school because we don't work with kids with disabilities. Well, guess what? White parents got together and said that is a constitutional violation because the preamble of the nation's premier document says that every person in this country has a right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So if a child with a disability cannot get an education, and we agree that an education is what prepares you for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, to deny them that on the grounds of disability is a constitutional violation. Are y'all following me? And so that's when Congress stepped in and said, you know what, you're right. Denying children with disabilities the right to a free public education is a violation. And that gave special ed its life. Now, there was special ed before 75. Some states already had their own. Are y'all following me? New Jersey already had their own. But there was no national special ed until 75. I'm bringing this up because some of you might say, well, I was in school before 75 and I was in special ed. That's because your state had it. But it was not a federal program until 75. Now, most of you will probably say, well, what's wrong with that? Giving children with disabilities the right to get an education, what could possibly be wrong with that, Dr. Umar? My answer to you is, nothing is wrong with that in and of itself, except when they created special ed in 75, they didn't do it with the express intent of helping black children. They did it with the express intent of helping white children. And they did it with the express intent of setting black children up for failure. Let me explain to you why. 20 years before special ed was 1954. The Brown versus Board of Education decision. In 1954, the Supreme Court said you can no longer use race in education. After that, white school districts still resisted integrating black children into the schools. That lasted for more than 10 years. 1964, we get the Civil Rights Bill, Dr. King. The Civil Rights Bill reorders the desegregation of schools. Still didn't happen. So in 1954, the Supreme Court said it can't be desegregation, but it stayed. 1964, the Civil Rights Act said there can't be segregation, but it stayed. 1974 comes. Boston against busing. New York City against busing. Philadelphia against busing. Seattle against busing. They started busing black children out to the white suburban schools, and white folks went crazy. Turned over buses, beat up children, threw bottles and water hoses. And this is the same time America's in Vietnam. And they say, wait a minute, we're not looking too good on the international level. We're going around the world telling people to treat their people fair. We can even let black kids go to school with whites. We got to do something about this because we're looking like hypocrites. So someone said, I got an idea. What if we did this? What if we told America's white racist school districts to accept the black children in? And once you accept them into your school, we're going to legally give you the right to resegregate them once they're on the inside. This way, nobody on the outside know that there's segregation on the inside. All they see is the black kids walk through the same door as the white kids at 8 o'clock in the morning. Are y'all following me? Okay. But they said, wait a minute. If we segregate them inside the school once they get in, there's still going to be complaints about that. So they said, we got an idea for you. What if you said you were separating the black children from the white children because intellectually they can't handle it? What if you were separating the black kids from the white kids because you believed they were retarded? Better yet, they came up with a label in 1963 called the specific learning disability, specifically made for black children. This was the weapon of mass destruction that gave birth to special ed. They said if you want to keep the black kids separate, you can. But never say it's because it's their color. Say it's because they're learning disability. The learning disability has been the greatest Jim Crow weapon used against black children. Listen to me, if you hear nothing else I say tonight, the learning disability is an opinion, it is not a fact, and it cannot be proven to exist. Yep. And if you argue otherwise, then you better explain to me what your argument is because you're talking to an expert in psychology and diagnosis. I evaluate children by the thousands. You cannot prove a learning disability. It is my opinion only. ADHD is my opinion only. Mild mental retardation is my opinion only. The conduct disorder is my opinion only. Oppositional defiant disorder is my opinion only. Emotional disturbance, my opinion only. I want you to understand that special ed is built on a foundation of white school psychologists' opinions. And why do I say that? Because less than 1% of all school psychologists in America are of African ancestry. That means 99% of the people testing your children and putting them in special ed don't look nothing like your child and don't know anything about your child, and in many cases probably can't even stand your child. That's right. Stay play, bro. Question number 1. What should I do if the school requests permission to evaluate my child? You know what you need to do? The school call you up, Mr. Johnson, I want to test your daughter. Our niece, she's struggling in mathematics. You can't test my child. You think she might have a learning disability. But first of all, I know you can't even prove that. That's just an opinion that y'all going to make up. I know why my child can't do math. It's because y'all haven't taught her how. That's right. Are y'all following me? They want to test your son for a reading disability. You tell them why your son is struggling. See, I need y'all to take the power of interpretation back from the school. Y'all let the school tell y'all why the child's struggling. You tell the school. No, you can't evaluate my child. Why not? Because I already know the reason. The purpose of an evaluation is to find out something you don't already know. If I already know that my son can't read, it's because y'all didn't teach him. Why would I get permission for evaluation? When my son was in first grade, his teacher
I'm just sorry. I just think that people need to be listening to this message. We got to start somewhere because it's going to tie all back into those young men in YSL. If you go and look at the interview of Kenneth Copeland on DJ, I think he's out of Chicago, DJU or something like that. But I if you would just listen to how he spoke on how he grew up and the conditions in which they grew up, then I think it'll help give a better understanding if you're seeking understanding, and then could possibly help give some solutions around what you find out in your quest to find out. So let's go back.
Was fresh out of college, couldn't tie her own shoestring. I'm not even sure she could read herself. Second grade, my son was being suspended 5 days every month. How can he learn how to read when y'all never even leave him in the classroom? Right. Third grade, my son's teacher went out on maternity leave in September, and my son had to deal with 25 substitutes from September to June. Don't tell me you got a learning disability. Y'all have a teaching disability. You take the power back. You are always the expert on your child. But once you sign that permission form, once you John Hancock that paper, you basically just said, I'm giving the school permission to tell me why my son can't read. You just put his life in their hands. Because once you put that boy or girl in special ed, they are not likely to ever again be able to read, write, or do math on their grade level. Right. The average black full-time special ed child is not prepared for the world of work by the time they graduate from high school, because special ed legally miseducates. Why? Because if you have a disability, then the whole definition of a disability is you are disabled to do what your peers can do. So since you are disabled, we're not going to teach you the same reading. We're going to dumb it down. We're not going to give you the same math. We're going to dumb it down. We're not going to give you the same writing. We're going to dumb it down. So here's my question to you, Black Tacoma. If your public school system is already dumbed the hell down, why would you let them dumb your child down even more? Right. You let them create a criminal right before your eyes and with your permission. And let me be honest, black parents, because it's not always about white supremacy. Well, yes it is, but sometimes it's but sometimes we play a leading role in support. That's right. Like children who never do homework. Like parents who never show up to school. Back to school night, you not there. Report card conference, you not there. Your teacher, your child teacher never even seen your face. Your son is failing a major class, but yet he still got video games and cell phones and laptops. Christmas is coming up. White Jesus. How many of y'all? How many of y'all? I'm willing to bet half of y'all are still going to buy your children everything on the wish list, despite the fact that they're not producing academically in school. Listen, in 1808, when slavery was outlawed in America, the importation, not the trade, but the importation. So from 1808 to 1865, the end of the Civil War, they simply stopped importing the slaves, and they created breeding farms, where they would find a black man called a buck, and they would find about a dozen black women called you-know-what sisters. And they would put y'all in these houses, and the job of the man was to impregnate the woman and produce more slaves for the system to exploit for financial gain. Well, guess what? Some of us are still. Some of our homes right now in Tacoma are breeding farms for white supremacists. If you're raising a child with no discipline, you have a breeding farm. That ain't no home. You are doing nothing but producing lives for white supremacy to ruin. Listen, the number one responsibility of a black parent raising a black child, especially a boy, is to teach that boy discipline. Discipline. If your son don't have discipline, white supremacy is waiting to swallow him up. Discipline is what he needs. And what is my definition of discipline? The ability to make yourself do what you don't feel like doing, when it gotta be done, whether you like it or not. If he doesn't have that, he ain't got time. My single mothers, I love y'all to death. Y'all doing a good job. And I apologize on behalf of some of my brothers, but not most of them, who should be there helping. But some of y'all got to do a little bit better job, because some of you are babyfying, sisterfying, and feminizing your son by doing everything for him and not making him do nothing for himself. I walk into your house for therapy, and you got 5 boys you raising, but you the one scrubbing the bathroom floor. Something's wrong with that. I walk into your house, you got 3 teenage boys, but you the one taking out the trash. Something is wrong with that. And when he's old enough to find a partner of his own, he want a woman just like my mom.
I have a cousin, we have this conversation all the time. You know, we have these sons, and now, you know, it's too hot for them to go out and cut grass. Well, there is a hot time of the day where no one should be out cutting grass, but people make livings cutting grass throughout the summer and the fall and the spring. So, change tires. Oh, he can't get his hands dirty because, you know, he plays ball. It's so much that we have not given our sons that we need to equip them with the basic fundamental knowledge of transitioning from boys to men. And of course, we can't be the male example, but we can certainly teach our sons. So, you know, when I hear people say a woman can't teach a boy how to be a man, she can teach him. What she can't do is physically show him. She can't give him the thought process, but she can give him a roadmap to make it to success. So we need to really understand that everything that he has in him came from her because he came through her. So we need to really quit comparing ourselves to each other and start looking at the commonalities and then understanding who we are and how we accentuate each other instead of how we destroy and divide each other. Men and women, I'm talking now. We got to learn to do that. These women fights that everybody is fighting is not our fight. If you don't hear black or African American or whatever they want to say, if you don't hear that before you hear the word woman or man, you know they're not speaking about you. But you have to speak about you and make you the woman or the man. But it gets a little bit deeper. So I just want to come in and do a little commentary and interject and let Dr. Umar do his thing.
Who do everything for me, and I don't have to do nothing for myself. In other words, black woman, I want to challenge you to make sure you are not raising your son to be the exact type of black man you yourself would never want to be. All right? And we got to stop this nonsense going around about my son don't need his father. I'm the only parent he ever had. You might be the only parent he ever had, but every child needs their mother and father, and they need them equally. Same thing I say. On that table back there, I got a DVD called Baby Mama Drama. It was a talk show we did in Philadelphia. I was like the Black Dr. Phil. Okay? And there was a brother on the DVD who was upset because his baby mother dropped his 2 twin daughters off on his steps one day and disappeared. She reappeared when they was around 12. She wanted to get reacclimated with her daughters. At the Baby Mama Drama session, he stood up and said, hell no, I told her she can't be in my daughter's lives because she had no business to walk out in the first place. I said, you're right, she was wrong for walking out. But whether she walked out, rolled out, or skated out, she's still those girls' mothers. And at the end of the day, they're going to need their mother, whether you like it or not. Make sure you're not making decisions about your daughters based on your own pain. That's right. I said you will let them girls get reacclimated with their mother because we got to stop playing God, choosing who can and can't be a parent to our children. You chose that when you laid down and lust and made them. If you would lay down and make them, you should be able to stand up and race.
That's right. That's right.
Now, they special educate our children. And then the next stage is psychiatric medication. Ritalin, Adderall, Concerta, Cyclin, Metadate, Risperdal, Prozac, Paxil, Zoloft, and the list goes on. And the sad thing about these drugs is there's no different than the ones they sell on the corner. According to the Drug Enforcement Agency of the United States government, Ritalin is a Schedule II drug, which means it's just as addictive as cocaine and opium. You don't have to believe me. Go to the library. So let me get this right, America. You have a whole prison system that is built on incarcerating black males for selling drugs. Your whole system is built, but you take that same drug that sent that boy's father to jail for a mandatory minimum of 5 years, and you'll change the label on it and call it Ritalin. and give it to his son so he can sit still long enough to learn about Christopher Columbus. Looking at the hypocrisy of the so-called war on drugs while America is drugging millions of black boys in the name of a fake-ass discipline called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which I simply refer to as Ain't No Day at Home disorder. Right. Some of you say, wait a minute now. Oh yes, 85% of black boys.
Now, many people get angry at Dr. Umar about this statement and his philosophy here, but if you would listen with an ear of an open mind, what he's saying is, and you'll hear him say it, but I'm going to comment on it because this is my interpretation of what he's saying, is that most mental diagnoses comes from someone's opinion of that's what this is, not based or steeped in scientific fact. And so if we get our thought processes from opinions of others, then you too can have an opinion. And of course, this is the place where we can have an opinion. Some people would label this as misinformation. Well, there's a lot of things they've labeled as misinformation just for the last 2 or 3 years. But today you'll find videos telling you all of what was said 2 or 3 years ago is exactly what's true today. But when the bottom line is dollar bill sign, then anything goes. And we have to be vigilant enough to start researching and learning for ourselves. We got to heal the little boy and the little girl inside of us so that we can get past our pain, so that we can help those that we are creating be able to live in this society with their pain and hopefully surpass us. But I showed a little TikTok, I believe it was, that this is the only generation of Asiatic people that is rearing children that are going to be worse off than any of the people that has come before us. Something is wrong about that, and we ought to want to do something about it. This is entertaining, but it's educating. It's criticizing. It's critiquing in love. Not hate. Not division. People make a lot of broad statements. And they talk about loving one another and being together. Yet, people don't talk to one another. Well, if one reach out to the other and the other still reject it, you can't have a one-sided conversation. It has to be two people being willing to accept their part of whatever the situation is, whether you agree upon it or not. You got to accept it and then be able to talk it if you choose to talk it, or just accept it and move forward, because nobody's going to change their stance on whatever it is that they feel deep in their heart to believe. And you don't want to do that. That's called adult conversations. Most of us don't have adult conversations. We talk to our adult children as if they're still our babies. You know, our toddlers, our adolescents. And then they have children that have children. We got to stop it and get back to loving again so that we can get back to living.
Boys on stimulant medication for ADHD don't have a father figure in their life. This has nothing to do with psychiatry. This is about fatherlessness. This is about a war on black men that sends the fathers to jail, leaves the mothers at home to raise the boy on their own, and in the natural order of things, the mother, regardless of culture, normally is not the one who provides the discipline. She provides the nurture and the love and the support.
That's right.
Her energy is feminine. It is the masculine energy that provides the structure, the standards, the balance.
That's right.
But when
That's
that's
right.
taken out the home, sometimes the boy can go wayward. But rather than give him his daddy, you send him back to the doctor. The psychiatrist is the new father in the black home.
That's right.
And under the new criteria, this is the book right here. Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. This is the book from which we get all the little fancy titles we throw on you and your children. Now let's flip the book over. There's a European on the back. His name is Benjamin Rush. He's on the back of every DSM. He's considered the father of psychiatry. He was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. He was Dean of Medicine at Pennsylvania Hospital, and he used to diagnose enslaved Africans with a disease called nigritude. He said nigritude was a disease that rendered the brain of the African feeble, useless, underdeveloped, almost like a chimpanzee. And he said the number one symptom of nigritude was black skin. And he said the blacker the skin, the more retarded the African. And he told white folks to not rub up against black people, or you too would catch nigritude. You don't have to believe me. The library is open on Monday. I'm trying to show all of you that psychology and psychiatry are weapons of the state. They decide what is normal behavior. What's another diagnosis they used to give our ancestors during slavery? The diagnosis was drapetomania, a disease that made the slave want to run away from his master. Every African who escaped from slavery to freedom was considered mentally ill. The disease was drapetomania, but check out the cure. The cure, according to Dr. Cartwright from New Orleans, Louisiana, who invented the diagnosis, he said the cure for drapetomania was to whip the living hell out of the slaves. If you follow me, brothers and sisters, I'm trying to paint a picture to you that this book decides what's normal and what's abnormal based on the risk it poses to the American social order.
Right.
Are you aware that every black boy in America diagnosed with a disruptive behavior disorder, whether it's ADHD, conduct disorder, oppositional defiant disorder, emotional disturbance, or disruptive behavior disorder, the FBI has a right to review their psyche now? Because J. Edgar Hoover said what? We must prevent the rise of a black messiah who would electrify the black masses. Pharaoh said, go and find them when they're young and kill them off before they have a chance. The psychiatrist is the Pharaoh. Diagnose them with ADHD so we know who they are and can follow them young. Diagnose them with conduct disorder so we know who they are and follow them young. Diagnose them with oppositional defiant disorder so we know who they are and follow them young. They want to find the potential revolutionaries now. Malcolm X was conduct disorder. Marcus Garvey was oppositional defiant disorder. These are disorders. Feminine black boys almost never get diagnosed with these conditions. The problem with public school is not that our sons don't want to learn. The problem with public school is that it's based on a white female culture that dictates you be able to behave like a girl to be successful. It is not the black boy who is disordered, it's the system. When I travel the country, they ask me, what's one thing we can do to make the schools better for black boys? Give us one thing, Dr. Johnson. I've been telling every school district that flies me out the same answer for the past 20 years, and ain't none of them took the recommendation. And that recommendation is what? I say, if you want to end special ed, you want to cut down suspension, expulsion, dropout, gang banging, you want to raise test scores, give every black boy in Tacoma, Washington, a black male teacher. Yes, sir. Yeah. Right. But there's only one problem with that. If you want to give every black boy in Tacoma a black male teacher, if you want to give every black boy in Seattle a black male teacher, we have to lay off a whole hell of a lot of white people. We cannot do that because our white teachers got mortgage. They got private school bills. They got car notes. They're saving for retirement. And then guess what they do when they don't have enough teachers to fill these vacancies? They go and get Teach for America, white racist teacher recruitment agency that goes around and find white folk with bachelor's degrees uncertified and bring them right to Seattle and Tacoma and stick them in the class with your children. And don't know nothing, don't know how to teach or nothing. And these same know-nothing teachers are the main ones telling you your child got a disability. How can you tell me my son got a math disability when your ass can't even count yourself? That's why y'all need to know whether the teachers in your child's classroom are highly qualified or not. According to No Child Left Behind, a highly qualified teacher is a teacher who has a degree, has a certification, has passed the test, and has demonstrated their ability to teach. Who's teaching your child this year in Tacoma? Are they certified, or is it somebody got fired from Wall Street, needs to pay the mortgage, and the quickest economic stimulus package he could find was your child?
And while Dr. Umar was coming on the scene trying to teach us about our children and how they learn and how they're not learning, then we had the good old DA, Paul Howard, and Fonnie Willis, who was the lead DA in prosecuting educators for erasing test scores. Prosecuting them, making them criminals, because it's a crime to turn in a fraudulent document. But yet they let people cop pleas who are guilty of the very crime that they're accusing others of and say it's okay, it's for the betterment of society. Whose public and whose society is it for the betterment? Anywhere you find crime is where you find the people. As Dick Gregory used to say, that you ill where you live. You rob where you live. You steal where you live. Your most familiar surroundings. It's not that people don't cross communities, because they do. But the majority of anything is going to happen where you're familiar. You know, they call it a comfort zone. Let's keep listening to Dr. Umar, and then we're going to stop it, because I have this video in the description and you can listen to the rest of it, because I want to cover some of his interview that I did with him on my show back in October of 2022. And I want to give what Dr. Claud Anderson tell us about voting, and it's such a time as this. When he made that video, it was time for us to vote. And so I probably will play Dr. Claud Anderson and then some of my interview, and then we'll call it a night. So I appreciate all three of you that's in here, and those of you that come in and out. If you would, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and join the membership. It would certainly help me. And communicate if you choose. If not, in the chat, when you go to the replay, or when it goes off and the chat comes back up, just go hit an emoji if you don't want to use words to support the channel, because it's all about engagement. And I've been able to survive so far with such a small audience for 3 years, and I'd like to continue to be here so that I can share my knowledge, skills, abilities, and the research that I've discovered.
The public school in the black community is an economic stimulus package for unemployed white folks. Right. Right. I know good black folk who would love to be and teach for America. I know a lot of brothers with bachelor's degrees looking for a job. They would love to go into the classroom and give back, but they don't get hired. Remember, your oppressor will never give you the tools necessary. Your oppressor will never give you the tools to overcome his control over you. And that's why our children are never schooled in the arts of power. Our children are never schooled in the arts of economic domination. Our children are never schooled in the arts of military takeover. The stuff that makes the world go round, your child ain't taught none of it. Right. And give them Anne Frank, Helen Keller, Chris Kelly Roberts, and Star Spangled Banner, with the pledge of allegiance in President Obama. After the black boy is put on drugs, the next thing is juvenile incarceration, juvenile detention center, special schools for the disciplinary kids, right? This is called pre-prison. We set them up. In many states, the child can't even go back to school after they get out of juvenile placement. You got to go to twilight school. You can go a couple hours at night, and we might let you leave with a diploma. And in case you haven't heard, Tacoma, in case you haven't heard, Seattle, in January of this year, 2014, we got a new GED test. I hope y'all know this now. The new GED test is linked to the new Common Core National Set of Curriculum Standards. And if you take the GED test, now you might not pass it if you didn't get the correct instruction. Why do they need to give us a new GED test? Only 1 out of every 4 black boys in America graduates from high school right now. That's it, 1 out of 4. Why do we need a new GED test? I'll tell you why. because they had to come up with another strategy to intensify the failure of black males, to justify the subsequent incarceration. Because they no longer need black people for the economic order of America to function. That's what the Mexicans said. Why do you think all this talk about immigration on CNN today? I'm sitting in the hotel. Immigration, the Mexicans, the Latinos, you know what this is about? They said President Obama moved unilaterally without the new Congress. How could you just make a decision and let the immigrants in and you didn't even talk to the new Congress? I'll tell you why. Because the business of America is business. They tell Obama what to do. And the corporations of America said we need more workers and we don't want to hire the black ones. Because if we hire the black ones, we got to pay them a certain wage because they know their rights. But if you let the Mexicans sneak over, we can pay them under the table. Mexican and Latino are here to take your place, which is why you must resist the attempt to fall for the multicultural identity crisis. They're trying to convince every African in America to put down your blackness and pick up the banner of multicultural. You need to form a coalition with Arabs and Asians and East Indians and Native Americans and Latinos and Mexicans, all of whom can't stand your black ass. A coalition with other brown people and fight as a unit of multiculturals against the white power structure. Hell to the no. Because even though they are non-white folk, they are just as racist as white folk, and every one of them participated in our oppression one way or the other. That's right. Including your so-called Native Americans, who some of y'all love. Every black person got some Indian in their family. But did you know all 5 of the major tribes fought with the Confederacy against the Union? Did you know many of the Native American Indian tribes had slaves of their own? And are you aware that most of them that have casinos right now passed regulations that said no black person, whether you got Native in your blood or not, can claim any part of the inheritance on their reservation. And you want to be a Native American. Black folks, they trying to be something they not. You will find that you got an Irish grandmother and you want to paint your house green. Tell me I'm wrong. A black person finding out they got white blood is like a black person hitting the damn lot. Guess what? I'm half Portuguese. They won't even let your ass on a Portuguese airplane. We don't want to be black no more, and everybody knows. Raven Simone on the open window. I'm not African. I'm not African American. I'm just an American. Well, I know my ancestors came from Africa, but I don't know where they come from. But I do know that my roots run through Louisiana. So what you're trying to tell me, Ms. Raven Simone, is because your ass don't know your history, you cease to be what you really are. Everybody trying to run from blackness. That's why the United States Census, they gave us all these new designees on the census now. You can be multicultural, multiracial, biracial, Latino, Pacific East Islander, Southeast Asian, and all of them is black by another name. That's it. My ancestor, Frederick Douglass, was the product of a rape. Did anybody ever call him biracial in his 75 years of life? No. Hell no. My great-great-great-great-grandfather, Stephen Bailey, his brother, the product of a rape. Did anybody ever call Grandpa Stephen biracial? Hell no. He was Negro and nigga like the rest of us, but now in 2014, we got sophisticated. And nobody's seeing any pride in being black no more, so we want to escape under other labels. Listen to me. You don't suffer for what you call yourself. You suffer for what you do not do for yourself. A lot of us think we can outname ourselves out of oppression. But I'm a Hebrew, I'm a Moor, I'm a Nawapian, I'm a this, I'm a that. I have no problem with none of the labels. But please don't think for one moment that the white man sees your ass any bit different because you got a new vowel in your name. We all in the same boat. Yes, sir. And we need to stop trying to run away from it because it ain't
And that's where Dr. Umar and I disagree, because I do know that black is dead civilly in the eyes of the law. And we all are Asiatic Africans. And you got to first understand where Africa is. A lot of people wanted to just be across the Atlantic Ocean, but it was once known as the Atlantic River. And we crossed the river and came here many of thousands of years ago. We are all the same people, and this also is the dominion of Africa. So if you don't do all of the research and you just follow one portion of the research, you'll be very confused. A Moor is your bloodline, that's your pedigree. is not an organization, affiliation, or just somebody you call the Moors. This is northwest of Mexico, the furthest west. That's what this is. And unless you go back and do some serious research and see how all of the different maps have been changed, the structure of the map turned upside down. If you look at some of the older maps where every name of a city or a country or a state in Africa, that same name, city, state exists here today in America. So that's where I differ with him, and we can differ. The end result is what he said. It's what you do. And if you acquire the knowledge, you don't have to spend the rest of your lives trying to identify, because our identity was stolen. We're the only group of people that total annihilated identity that still exists today, because some groups that were annihilated are no longer in existence, like the Pygmies, and there's several other groups. Nations are starting with nativity. Nativity goes back to navel. Navel goes back to the cord that attaches to the baby that is in the womb of the mother, as the baby exists and grows for 9 months. Everything is done on a 12-month basis, and once it comes out on the 9th month, then the 3 months following that are the months that you connect to that baby, and you nurture and you bond. If you're fortunate enough to do that. Most of us live in such deplorable conditions. We don't get to do the bonding and the nurturing and the lap time that our children deserve, because we got to go back to work. You could be on maternity leave from the day you find out that you're pregnant. But 6 weeks after that baby's born, you better be back at work. It's the systems that are in place that keeps us in the condition in which we're in. And unfortunately, we don't have enough people interested in finding out what must we do to free ourselves. Let me talk a little bit more. Let me say less and let Dr. Umar say more.
We done been through every strategy we could potentially use to be accommodated, amalgamated, integrated into America. We done changed our names, we done changed our religion, black women still changing their hair, ain't nothing changed yet. Black man, dating outside your race. Woo! We get him. I got bad in Seattle. Who you marry, who you have children with, who you date, who you're engaged to, who you cohabitate with, is a political decision. You are with the woman you are with, not merely for who she is, but for what she represents. Michael Jordan married that young white model, not because he loved her, but for what she represented to a blue, black, purple man who was picked on and bullied for his richly melanated skin his whole life. And despite the fact he was Michael Jordan, he saw in that woman an escape from his own color. And when that woman gives birth to his child, he will be happy that my baby ain't as black as I am. The interracial marriage, the miscegenation, is nothing more than a self-inflicted eugenicidal campaign by black men to lighten up their DNA because they can't stand what their mothers look like. I would never condemn the white woman. She ain't done nothing to me. It ain't her fault. It's our fault for running away from our own women. She was good enough for you in slavery, but she ain't good enough for you now. She was good enough for you in Jim Crow, but she ain't good enough for you now. She was good enough to lick your wounds during the Black Power movement, but now she ain't good enough for you no more. Really now? Up until 1957, 67, you weren't even allowed to marry a white woman in certain states. And ever since the Supreme Court overturned interracial marriage, black men been marrying outside of their race more than the men of every other race in America put together. So it's no way in hell you can convince me that it's purely about love, because if it is, explain to me, brother, why is it you seem to have jungle fever more than everybody else put together? It is a self. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I know some sisters got issues. Get on her damn nerves, she'll put your business in the street. I know this. I know my sister. You don't treat her right at the end of the year, she'll sell your social at tax time. I know she can get bucked, but so can you. And if she can put up with your ass, you can put up with hers. We in this together. We family. If one rise, we all rise. If one fall, we all fall. We got to get our cultural glue back that once held us together. The Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, greatest black leader of the 19th century, the one who paved the way for every other leader after him, who didn't give him credit after they stole his ideas. He said, if the black men and women are not careful, he said, if you are not careful, you will drink in all the poison of Western civilization and you will die from the effects of it. That's right. Nothing could be more true. The sad thing about the Obama years, y'all, is that we took a break. And white folks anticipated it. Because most of us have never been properly politically educated. But if you was politically educated, you would know that. You would know that whenever a black face goes into a high political place, the condition of black folks gets worse. In Philadelphia, we have a black mayor. It gets worse. In most cities, whenever you have a black person in charge, it gets worse. Why? It's not purely because you have a black person. It's because the black politician is elected 9 times out of 10 on white money. Because black people are not economically organized to finance our own candidates. So no matter how well-meaning I might be in Tacoma, if I run for mayor and it's the white folks who finance my commercials and my handbills and my television commercials and everything else and my speeches and lectures and radio interviews and t-shirts and signs, if it's the white folk who finance me, how in the hell can I carry out a black agenda? That's right. That means for every sellout black politician, we have ourselves to blame partly. Because we're the ones who did not back them with our money. So as long as you keep economically disorganized, as long as you do not create the ability to finance your own politicians, the black politician will always sell you the hell out. Because guess what, y'all? We've been miseducated. We've been led to believe that politics controls money. That's the biggest lie told in America. Money controls politics. This miseducation thing is sad. You know why it's sad? Because we have the economic potential to give our children a separate, independent educational reality. It's sad because right here in the Seattle area, you guys are going to spend over $1 billion on Christmas gifts. From next Friday to New Year's Day, you guys are going to spend over $1 billion for Christmas gifts. $1 billion! And here I am with $220,000 fundraiser and can't even get $2.5 million. Do you know that the white folks in Ferguson, Missouri, and around the country gave that white cop over $300,000 in a week? And I'm sitting on $200 after 5 months. Talking about slavery is over. The number one goal, the function, the prerogative, the premise of slavery was to make the victim a willing accomplice in his own extermination. That's right. See, we keep talking about overcoming white supremacy in the world, white supremacy in the community, white supremacy in government, white supremacy in the schools, white supremacy in the courts. But what about the white supremacy that lives inside of you?
That's right.
What about the fact that every black woman has a little white girl living in her? What about the fact that every black man has a white boy living in him? Have you exorcised the devil within? Because until you exorcise the devil within, the one without will always remain free.
One thing I know is true about us as a people, the same way it was back in the day, is the same way it is now. People don't listen to what's being said. It's their inferiority that they, I guess, lean upon. Because I think that I've heard nothing that would stop me from being as successful as I am. I haven't heard anything that makes me bow down, or be any less than. I hear what we need to be teaching our children and uplifting and coming together for each other. I think most people are very angry about Umar and the money that he raises. And everybody calls him a scammer. Well, it's a whole lot of scammers out here. It's people making millions off of the YSL trial, off of Young Dolph trial, off of Mo 3 trial, off of any of these trials. These people don't know no more than you and I. But they tell a good story. And people spend their money where they want to. I would love to get the cash apps and the super chats. But I don't. Not many. The ones I get, I appreciate. But I'm not going to stop being integral and telling what I know to be true and to resonate with what I resonate with, because other people have a problem with the way somebody else handled their business. These are businesses when you come on these things. Whether you choose to take a paycheck like most people, or whether you're like Donald Trump and say, y'all keep the money. I'm just here just to be here. We all came here for whatever reason we came. And I think if we don't have a message to offer to help uplift and to build somebody, then, we ought to leave those alone that's doing it. But, it doesn't bother Umar because he said he had a purpose in his heart since he was 8 years old. One thing I know is one of the things that he would love to do with the school, I believe in his heart of hearts. That's truly what he would love to do. Almost humanly impossible for one person to do. But I can tell you what he does do. Every Saturday, he talks to parents. And you talk to some of them parents whose children he's helped. It's real easy to call a nigga, or he ain't shit, or he's cap, or he ain't this and he ain't that. It's real easy. But I know the help he's done. I know how it helped me. I know there are things we don't know because we were not taught, and you ain't teaching it. So everybody can have an opinion of somebody. I don't have a problem with your opinion. It's just that, your opinion. But that's why we as a people can't ever get anywhere, because we won't even bring the brilliance together. Not that we have to work with Umar because he's going to do his thing, you do your thing. And if we all do our thing, like I always preach, an army of one working toward the same goal, and that's to save our babies. So then you got people, children coming up listening, and then you got grown people talking about this nigga just cap. He ain't shit. He just talking. He just want a donation. I don't know nobody on here that does not want a donation. They may not take them. But if you get 500 subscribers, you're going to be eligible to be in the program. Well, you're going to be automatic. You get 1,000, you're eligible for the program. And if you apply for that program, then that means that you see this as a business, another stream of income. You don't have to live for this. There's a lot of scammers that do. They tell a lot of lies. It ain't promoting nothing but hatred, crime, degradation. It happened to me. Stream your videos. Make money off of my videos. I can't even get 10 people in my chat, but they can get $300 laughing and talking about me. That's how life goes. But that ain't going to stop me from doing what I do, because what I do, somebody going to need this information one day, exactly what Umar is saying. Somebody going to need to hear that. And they're going to find themselves. Or they're going to go on the path to find themselves. I ain't heard him telling nobody how to beat nobody. How to misuse nobody. Everything he speaks, he gives a reason. And don't nobody have to agree. You know, I like Umar. And I'm going to continue as long as YouTube allow me to put out this truth that he speaks. And let y'all worry about his money and how everybody giving. Because everybody give to these people talking about Young Thug. They ain't giving to Young Thug. They giving to these people with the fancy edits and the good lies and the jokes. That's how it goes. You know, everybody like to remind you, after all, this is YouTube. This is a multi-trillion-dollar business. I ain't gonna say billion. And the majority of the people, just like the pharmaceutical companies, are getting paid. I think if we listen to the message, not so much as the messenger, if you have an issue with the messenger, but I know most men have a problem hearing truth from other men, and that's a problem. That's a problem. Not only should you be able to hear truth, but you ought to be able to share some truth. And if you sharing truth, then you got to know it's a little bit of truth in all of us. It's a lot of people on YouTube, and all of them have disputes and what y'all call beefs and all that. But we're the only group of people who left out of everything, and then we try to keep each other from being successful. Makes no sense to me. Makes none. But it is what it is.
So we're going to build the Frederick Douglass and Marcus Garvey Academy. Yes, we are. We must. Some people ask me, Dr. Umar Johnson, you're the foremost scholar of our day. You're more requested than all the other ones put together. You're almost the only one who get invited to colleges anymore. Are you meaning to tell me that with all your potential, the only thing you can give the black folks is a school? Well, let me explain that. As a psychologist, I know that before we can have an economic revolution, before we can have a military revolution, before we can have a political or cultural revolution, there must be a psychological revolution.
Yes, right.
The mind is the first and the final frontier. If you don't change the way black people think, you change nothing about black people.
That's right.
Why do you think we keep running around in circles, black folks? Why do you think here in Seattle and Tacoma we keep running around in circles, keep trying to organize, and it keeps failing, and trying again and it failed again? You know why? Because you're dealing with psychologically toxified Negroes. You're dealing with folks who pledged their allegiance over 12,000 times before their 18th birthday. You're dealing with folks who was fed a steady diet of white Jesus every Sunday.
That's right.
And Abraham Muhammad on Friday. You do realize the reason why these black folk are so messed up is because all of us were conditioned to hate self and identify with oppressor.
That's right.
You can't have a revolution with that type of mindset. Whenever you start an organization, you automatically do what? You get a splinter group. First day of the meeting, am I wrong, y'all? First day of the meeting, they already said another click up. Tell me I'm wrong. Black people love clicks. Tribalist asses. Tell me I'm wrong. And why do we set up a click soon when somebody tries to get something done right? Well, we don't like the way he's doing it. We don't like the way she's doing it. A click. Because a black person doesn't love much more than the opportunity to destroy another. That's what I'm going to do to school first. Because I got to change the way our children think. We ain't going to fix it, but they do. I got to change the way they think. Your boys got to be raised in such a way that they never even consider dating outside their race. Right. Our daughters have to be raised in such a way that they never even consider not having natural hair. All right. Our adults got to be conditioned. They got to become the adults who would never spend $1 outside of a black business. Not at all.
That's right.
Our problem is we taking psychologically damaged blacks and you're trying to create something from that. As a therapist, I know that people don't change easy. Do you know the human personality is largely fixed by the age of 5? By the time you're 15, you're pretty much who you're going to be for the rest of your life. At 21, it's damn near a foregone conclusion. And at 35, you can forget it. We out here trying to change people to 60. It's hard to get people off crack. It's hard to get people off cigarettes, alcohol, food addictions, sex addictions, shotgun addictions. If it takes you 20, 30 years to get them off of those other ones, could you imagine how long it will take to get an African off of white supremacy addiction? Black folk love white folks so much they will kill you first. Brothers and sisters, you never let these schools touch the child unless you believe there's something wrong with your child. That's the first thing I'm gonna ask you. Dr. Umar, they want to test myself. Do you believe something is wrong with your child? Not really, but they say. I didn't ask you, no. They say. Do you believe about your child? I don't care what they say. Did they birth that child? No. If that child goes to jail, are they the ones who gotta live with that? If that child get killed, is that their responsibility? No. This is your baby. Stop giving the system the power to tell you what's in the best interest of your child. Let me show you something here. Special ed is 13 disabilities, right? Let me break them down. Specific learning disability, 8 types. Basic reading skills, reading fluency, reading comprehension, math calculations, math reasoning, listening comprehension, oral expression, written expression. I'm gonna go back through it in a second. Emotional disturbance, mild mental retardation. I'm gonna put the ADHD, other health impairments. And then down here, I'll put autism. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You know what? Let me put speech and language in here. Okay. You see those 6? Those are 6 out of 13. I call it a big black 6. Most black kids in special ed are into one of these. Now, speech and language impairment, I'm not too concerned about that. Why? Because if your child has a speech problem, trouble expressing themselves, expressive language, or understanding, receptive language, they don't go to a special ed class. They are in special ed. If you're diagnosed with one of them, you are a special ed child. But he doesn't go to the class. He gets the speech therapy. Are y'all following? Right. So I'm not very concerned about that because he only gets the therapy. Autism is a real diagnosis. It's not fake. But a lot of black kids are diagnosed with autism who don't even have it. For example, if your child has a hearing loss issue or deafness in an ear, he will look autistic and not be. If your child is a selective mute baby, this is a child who voluntarily doesn't talk for whatever reason. And then one day he just starts talking like crazy. Selective mute. Another child is a child who suffers from social anxiety disorder. For whatever reason, he's not comfortable around others. He shies away from it. He's scared in social context. Can very easily look autistic and not be. So just because autism is real doesn't mean your child's diagnosis is real. And why do we have so many black autistic children in America today? It's because you keep on giving your children shots. Right. Go down on the shots. Now some of you will say, if I don't give my child shots, they won't be able to go to school. That's not true. In America, the only 2 states that dictate a child must have immunizations to go to public or charter school are West Virginia and Mississippi. This is Washington. Your child do not need shots to go to school. All you have to do is get an exemption letter from the pediatrician. They sign it, take it to the school secretary.
And remember, this video was 9 years ago. 9 years ago.
You go to the county board of health, you download the exemption form yourself, sign it, notarize it, give it to the secretary, life goes on. Third option, you write your own letter that my child will not be getting immunizations. It is against our personal family belief. We don't have to name a religion. Get it notarized, take it to the school, life goes on. I just had a parent do that in New Jersey, no problems. But you can't go to the school asking them what your rights are. That's your problem. Is it true? If Dr. Umar was here Saturday, they can tell you, go get the shot, because they can see in your face you're not sure. Remember, the law don't fight for you. You got to use it to fight. You got to be assertive. I'm letting y'all know that my child don't need no shots to go to school. And here is my form. What class are they in this year? Okay? My youngest daughter, she doesn't have shots, so she's not going to get shots. Okay? And you need to think about not immunizing no more of your children as well. Because based on the research that I've done, I believe that they are putting time-release cancer in a lot of these shots. Yes, sir. Yes, I believe that. And there's proof out there that shows that. Okay? Stop taking shots. And now they got Ebola running around and your ass still taking shots. They got a new strain of AIDS and you getting the damn flu shot. Have you lost your mind? Everybody at the Rite Aid and the Walgreens getting a free flu shot. First of all, anytime the government giving out something free, you're getting the wrong. My elders, stop taking that flu shot. You don't need that flu shot. There's herbs you can take. There's teas you can take. Talking about a free flu shot. Remember back in the 80s they was giving out free cheese? Y'all laugh because everybody's still constipated from it. The block was like this. 30 pounds. You change your brakes on them, man. But guess what they found? In Philadelphia, they found a strain of a virus. This was an AIDS. In my city, they found a strain of the virus in the free cheese from the U.S. Department of Agriculture that was making black men in Philadelphia sterile. How the hell does cheese make you sterile? Remember a couple years ago, they used to give out free groceries. They said, well, the farms grew too much food this year. We're going to be going around giving. You're crazy. You don't take nothing free. You got to be careful what you eat. And that's why at the Fred Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, we want to teach your children how to grow their own food. The child won't be able to graduate. Child will not be able to graduate unless they grow 6 fruit and 6 vegetables, and they have to grow in their house. Okay? So they can't use an excuse that we don't have any ground out back to do a farm. You can make the spare room in the house a farm. Okay? We're talking about a whole new revolutionary education. People say, why we need another school? No, we got enough of them, yeah, but you ain't got the right one. Right. First of all, half the African-centered schools I see ain't nothing but Eurocentric schools with a dashiki and a damn drum and 6 Chinese words. Or you give a thing white education and give a damn kente cloth. That ain't no damn African-centered learning. Still got the girls coming to school with weaves and whip blonde-ass Beyonce hair talking about we African-centered school. That's a contradiction. And I want all my mothers in here to hear me clearly when your daughter show up to the Anna Douglas and Amy Garvey RBG Leadership Academy, she got to show up happy to be nappy or she can't show up at all. Right now, there will be no weave, no wig, no perm, no straightening home, no hair color, or no cherry curl. We're taking it back to the roots. Some of y'all say, well, what does my daughter's hair got to do with you giving her a decent education? My handsome black mother is everything. Because the first thing I got to teach your daughter before I teach her anything else is to love herself. She's gonna love herself so much, she's gonna come home and she's gonna be talking to you like, Mama, why you still a slave? That's right. Come home, I'm gonna tell her you go home, your homework assignment is to burn white Jesus off the Ain't nobody gonna give you what I'm gonna give you. Watch and see. Already got over 7 licensed black pilots who already said they will come to the school and train our kids how to fly airplanes free. Ain't nobody telling us to send our kids to college. Send them to college. Send them to college for what? Are you aware there's more than 2 million black folk in this country with master's and doctorate degrees who can't find a job? Those of y'all who've been to college like me and I got 6 degrees, you know the only thing you guarantee to get a college is debt to the bank. It's another form of economic slavery. I was watching it on CNN today. I think they can read my article. CNN. The college education ain't worth it anymore. It costs the average child $100,000 to get a 4-year degree and no job to pay it back. Nope. For our children who want to go to college and have the grades to go, we will support them. Because we do need doctors and lawyers. We do need engineers. Yes, we do. That's our black professional class. We don't want them to be the damn bourgeoisie boule class, but we need a black professional class. But what if your son don't want to go to college? What if your daughter don't want to go? What's wrong with him being an auto mechanic? What's wrong with being a plumber, a carpenter, electrician, HVAC, woodworker, computer net? Listen, I know electricians who make more money than surgeons. I know folks who got auto shops who make more money than the best engineer from Lockheed Martin. And it didn't take him a bachelor's and a master's. It took him 2 years in a trade school. And he got auto shops all around the city. One of the richest men in the city, and he wears a blue suit to work, not a white shirt and a tie. We got to re-educate our children's minds because we have fed them a diet that says unless you wear a white shirt and a tie to work, you're a failure. But I'm seeing now more and more, the more you wear a white shirt and a tie, the more you in debt to the banks. You can go to trade school almost no debt. 2 years and you've done. Become a master tradesman, you can tear a house down and put it back up together. And that's why we're going to teach your children financial and economic science. Every child is going to be a master of real estate in their home state. Imagine your child in the 9th grade knowing real estate inside and out, be able to take the test and pass the license the day after graduation. Imagine your child having their own business plan by the time they've done the 10th grade. Imagine your child having their own investment portfolio by the time they've done the 11th grade. My school is based on the premise that you don't need college to be successful. My school is based on the model that when your child leaves me, they better be able to make a decent living. Or I failed them. It'll be based on the model that education is about one thing: preparing our children in the art of acquiring, maintaining, and protecting global economic and political power. Yes, sir. Right. Yes, sir. That's what this school is about. We going to have a maritime academy where we teach them how to float ships. Marcus Garvey put ships on the water, the only leader to do it. People laughed at Garvey. What the hell we need with a black star liner? Mr. Garvey said, if you want to be serious about economic power, you got to have distribution. Are you aware that we're the only race on the planet who don't have a distribution network? If everyone in this room had a product you wanted to sell, when you wanted to sell it to black folks all over the globe, how are you going to get it to your brother in Europe, your brother and sister in Africa? How are you going to get it to South and Central America? How are you going to get it to Australia and the Caribbean? You know how? You're going to go to the Jewish distribution. You're going to go to UPS and DHL. You're going to go to the post office. You're going to have to go to white folk to fly, float, drive, and sell your product around the world. And because they're the ones doing the distributing, they're going to keep 98% of every dollar you make.
That's right.
Even our damn rappers ain't got distribution. Right. Read an article a couple of years, y'all heard about it when Sean Puffy Combs, the richest of them all, didn't have no distribution for his music. So nothing got sold from Bad Boy until one of the white folks gave him a deal and allowed him to redistribute his music at a heavy cost. I'm talking about you free. Slavery ended in 1865. Black people own half the wealth. Excuse me, 0.5% of all the wealth in America. Here we are 149 years later, we still stuck at 0.5%. In a century and a half, your wealth ownership hasn't even increased 0.25%. Where's your supermarkets? Where's your factories? Where's your schools for your children? Where's your airplanes and your submarines? Where's your distribution lines? Where's your production plants? You want to be treated equal? But you got to do the things to make yourself equal. You get 24 hours in the same day like every white man and every Arab. We all got the same time. We all got the same bodily functions. We all got a brain in our head. If we are as great as we claim to be, and I know that we are, we got to manifest it and show it. And one thing we got to do, I told my elders this at ASCAP last weekend, 2 weeks ago. I said that studying the history is this. We need to know who we are, where we come from. I love the Egyptology movement. Dr. Ben helped to wake me up when I was a freshman in undergrad. But I said at the end of the day, brothers and sisters, if all we want to do is preach to our children about what they used to do, how great we used to be, how glorious we were in the dynastic theory of Kemet, if all I can share with him is what we were, and I can help him be what he needs, then I'm irrelevant. In fact, I ain't nothing but a preacher. A black scholar who ain't doing nothing but talking about the past ain't no different from a damn preacher, because that's all the preacher do is preach from the Bible about what was. This is what Jesus said. This is what Jeremiah said. This is what Moses said. Our kids don't want to hear about no past-based learning. They want to know, how can you help me make money now? How to build power now. How to stop from being killed by police now. Right. I was on a panel discussion in Philadelphia Friday, the day before yesterday, and the question was posed to the panel: why don't our children listen to us no more? Why didn't they respect us no more? And the whole panel went, they saved your brother for last. And I said, let me make this real simple for y'all, this audience. I'm gonna make it really, really simple. The reason the youth don't respect the adults anymore is because they know that the adults in the black community are all scared of white people. And a child who is courageous cannot respect an adult who is not. And until we begin to show them that we are not afraid of our oppressor, we will never get their respect back. Because those boys on the corner, they live in wrong. They going foul, but they are not afraid. How can you give a lesson to somebody without fear when you full of it? We're about to do a conference over in LA with the gangbangs. We're going to finish Tupac Shakur's work. They called on me to do it, and I'm going to do it. We want to get them all together. I want all the corner boys together. We keep looking at the children like they're the problem. The children are the damn solution. Thank you for the break. Let me go back to this diagnostic list, because it's almost time for that break. When we do take our break, make sure you get a copy of my new book, Psychoacademic Holocaust, Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys. If you're raising a black child, working with a black child, I don't know how you can do it without minds. It's the only book ever written, only ever, by a black school psychologist who teaches you how to fight back step by step against special ed and ADHD. The school wants your child tested, I'm gonna tell you how not to get them tested. The school want to kick your child out, I'm gonna teach you how not to get him kicked out. The school say they want him on drugs, I'm gonna tell you exactly what to say to that child. I'm teaching you the law, you need that. You read that book cover to cover. I got a whole chapter on how to deal with disruptive behavior without medicine. You don't need drugs to change behavior. My father was a drill instructor for the United States Marine Corps. I got 5 brothers. Never one of us had ADHD or conduct disorder. I don't even know what the hell I could have. If I would have came home and told my father, Daddy, I cursed my teacher out today. I think I got conduct disorder. And I asked me, bro, I would have got my ass kicked. I wish I would have came home talking about, you know, Daddy, I don't pay attention in class no more. I think I got ADHD. And I asked him, really? When did we get ADHD? 1990. The same year they started mass incarcerating black males. They took the father out the house, came up with ADHD, and now they're making $30 billion a year drugging our kids. Some of y'all say, I don't believe you, Dr. Johnson. I think ADHD is real. Well, let me read y'all the criteria. This is the book. This is where we get it from. Listen up. Fails to give close attention to detail, has difficulty sustaining attention, does not listen when spoken to, does not follow through on instructions, has difficulty organizing tasks, is reluctant to engage in tasks that require sustained mental effort. What child ever played? Let me finish. Is easily distracted. What child is not? Is forgetful in daily activities, fidgets with his hands or feet, leaves his seat when he's expected to remain seated, runs or climbs excessively, is unable to play quiet. So I wrote the diagnostic criteria for ADHD. What child?
And you can Google the DSM. The latest one I know is the DSM-5, but they change them. They update them because they change the diagnoses and what they mean. But you can Google that. And if you keep on Googling, you can find the actual DSM. You can also purchase it as well. But that is truly the book that all mental disabilities derive from.
Child plays quietly, black, white, or purple. You don't even play quiet. Kids coming to school, Dr. I think my daddy was beating my mom up, but she was laughing. No, nah. It's a whole nother kind of playing, son. It's cookie face. Is often on the go, talks excessively, blurts out answers, has difficulty waiting his time, and intrudes on other people when they talk. Brothers and sisters, did I not, some of y'all like this, he's serious? Yes, I just read you the criteria. Did I not describe everybody in this damn room right now? Oh, man. Made it up. They made it up out of thin air. They get paid off our voice. Mothers, stop. Stop getting your sons tested for ADHD. Stop. I know he's getting on your nerves. I know the school is calling and trying to break your back. Don't do it, because they're going to give them pills. And those pills are going to kill brain cells. Those pills are going to cause early onset dementia. Those pills are going to cause sickle cell. Those pills are going to lead to sexual dysfunction. It's going to erode his ability to have children when he's older. Those pills are going to cause heart problems. Your son might be on dialysis by his 18th birthday because of Ritalin and Concerta. Those drugs are going to kill your son more than it can ever help, and they don't help because drugs don't solve problems. The one on the corner or the one at the pharmacy. When I open my school, your kid can leave their drugs at home. Tear that IEP up that they gave you in special ed. I don't need that either. But I can see your children thinking they need a Dr. Johnson. I've been in special ed for 5 years. I need extra reading help. This school's too hard. Really, Raheem? Since you need special help, Raheem, guess what I'm going to do for Raheem, y'all? Raheem and Rashida and everybody else, little Tay-Tay and them, all you want to be slow-ass black children. That's what I'm going to do for y'all. Since y'all so slow and need so much extra help, y'all come to school on Saturday and Sunday. Until your ass don't need help. How much you want to bet in 1 week I'll be the best damn reason I got? See, y'all let your children run a game on you. Dr. Johnson, he's taking 5 hours to do his homework. It's 11, 12 o'clock at night, and I'm still sitting with my son at the table. You know why? Because you ain't gave his ass no consequences yet. Right. Tell him if that homework ain't done by a certain time, he can forget about Saturday. Tell him that homework ain't done by a certain time, she can forget about going out with her girlfriends later. All behavior is a function of the consequence. You gotta find your child's Achilles heel and squeeze it. The problem is you don't run your child, most of y'all children run it y'all. They come to school and tell me, Dr. Johnson, I know what days I can get in trouble, what days I can't. Monday, my mama busy, I don't get in trouble. Tuesday, scandal on, I don't get in trouble. Wednesday, she be kind of focused. I can't get in trouble Wednesday. Thursday, she kind of soft. Friday, the weekend, she got to go get a twerk on. I can do whatever the hell. But no, y'all. One boy said, Dr. Johnson, if I come home with a pink slip, my mama cursed me out for 15 minutes. And after that, life goes on. Let me ask you a question. How can you teach discipline if you don't have that? Right. Children don't fall far from the tree. Stop trying to separate your child from your house culture. All these high school dropouts we got, how in the hell can a child drop out of school until a parent drops out of their life? Let them talk, that's the ancestors. So check it out. Learning disability, 8 types. Basic reading skill, reading fluency, reading comprehension. Let's talk about reading comprehension. A lot of our children struggle with reading comprehension because it's not taught well in school. You have to teach your child that at home. I'm telling you now, I don't care if they go to a $30,000 white private school and in the worst ghetto school, it don't matter. They do not teach our children how to retain the information from the text. You have to build their memory muscles at home, and it's real simple. Take out the newspaper. Newspapers are good because most articles are only a couple paragraphs. You give your child, read that, and they got to be something they're not familiar with. If they're familiar with it, they might know the answer anyway, okay? Give them something they're not familiar with, they read it to you, and you take it back and you ask them questions. What was that about? What is likely to happen as a result of that? Who's the main character in it? Who's the protagonist? Who's the antagonist? What would you do based on what you read? How is this going to affect us as a family? They get the questions wrong, you give it back to them again. They can read it again. Build the memory. Make them pay attention to what they read. A lot of your children can decode well. I give them, they can read all those, and then when I take the book back and say, well, I have some comprehension questions for you, Raheem and Tay-Tay. Raheem and Tay-Tay can't answer one thing. Who was the main character? I don't know. What happened when they went down south? I don't know. What's likely to happen? I don't know. But he the first day and one finish reading. Because what most teachers do is once a child is fluent, they stop. They never get the comprehension. How many of you were speed readers in school but couldn't comprehend the information? What good is being able to read fast if you can't retain? And then they say, well, the black kids must be stupid because the white kids are scoring 15 points better than the black kids. I know y'all tired of hearing this one. I'll tell you why the white kids are scoring 15 points better than the black kids, because the average Asian child is spending 12 to 15 hours a week studying outside of school. The average white child is spending 8 to 12 hours a week studying outside of school. The average black child in the ghetto of America spends 45 minutes a week on homework. That's you, not white supremacy. That's you. And what's the next reason? Most of the tests that they give our children are designed for the child to fail because they are standardized on middle-class white children. I want to make sure you understand what standardization means. It means we're going to make a test. In order to make the test normal, we got to choose a population that is going to be the normal group. Are y'all following me? So if I'm a test maker and white middle-class children are going to be my standard sample, you know what that means? That means most of them, by design, have to pass the test. Are y'all following me? Go ahead. This is where the white bias, white privilege is based in the test. So of course the white kids are going to do better because the test was normed on their intelligence. With standardization, before they give the test out to the children, they already tested the test before your child took it.
Yes.
That's what standardization is. And y'all, I'll tell you, I hope the black kids do better in Tacoma on the Washington State assessment. Do you realize they already know how well your child is going to do because the people who make the test know the quality of the education?
Oh boy.
Then why they keep giving our kids all these damn tests? You know why? Because it helps them justify why our kids don't get opportunities. Right. And their children do. The test is white supremacy's way of looking scientific and unbiased about the crap they do. Listen, what do you think would happen if black kids started doing better than the white kids on the state assessment? They would burn that damn test the next week. You know why? Because if the black kids are doing better, how the hell do you explain so few of them at the University of Washington? Right. How do you explain only one working on a doctorate? Only one working on a medical degree? Only one in the engineering program? Only one working on his doctorate in psychology? If the black kids are doing better than the whites on the test, how do you explain the lack of opportunity for our children? It can only be racism. So the only way to protect racism is to make sure the whites do better. Wow. I'm giving you the science. Yes. I'm going to take it a step further. I'm going to break at 8 on the dot, and we'll break from 8 to 8:15, come back, 8:15 to 9 o'clock, I'll do the second presentation. 9 to 10, I can sign books and take pictures, and we'll be out of here by 10:30. Okay? IQ test. When most of you talk about your child's IQ score, I need you to start putting an FS in front. It is a full-scale IQ. But did you know that that full-scale IQ comes from 4 lower indexes? One of them is non-verbal IQ. how well your child can solve problems for which they've never been educated, that don't require them to speak, only think. Are y'all following me? That is universal. Black, white, and Chinese, everybody does well. Processing speed, IQ. How well your child can process a problem. Fastest, how fast, how efficient is your son or daughter at getting a problem correct? Black, white, and Chinese, universal. The next one is WMIQ, working memory intelligence. How well can your child hold information in their mind and use it while they're holding it in their mind? Are y'all following me? Working memory. Like a good freestyle rap artist, somebody who makes their rap stuff out the blue, they gotta have excellent working memory. They got to pull words, think of the concept, and flow all at once. Are y'all following me? These are universal. But there's one more left, brothers and sisters. And guess what that one that is left is called? It's called verbal IQ. This is where the racism is. What is verbal IQ, Dr. Umar Johnson? Verbal IQ is based on the words, the ideas, the concepts, and the language that white people use. It has nothing to do with how smart your child is. It only tells us how accustomed they are to white language in conversation. Are y'all following me? So when they talk about the black child is 15 points dumber than the white child, this overall IQ is being affected by white supremacy and cultural bias. So let me ask you a question. If the black child is doing less well because they don't understand white middle class language, that means the white kid is doing better because they have the benefit of it. Are y'all following me? So then some of y'all would say, Dr. Umar, if you're telling me that this is the only bias test scale, why don't they get rid of this and leave those three and just let those three make... Are you crazy? This is a racist ass country. If they take out that verbal, what might happen to the IQ scores? The black children might start outperforming the white children, and now you have educational revolution. Guess what else is gonna happen? A lot of them black kids you got in special ed will suddenly not qualify no damn more, which means the school district gonna lose money because every time I diagnose your child with one of the labels on that board, they get an economic stimulus package. A child in special ed is worth twice as much as a regular one. If Tacoma is spending $7,000 on a child, that means once Dr. Umar says he needs special ed, he worth $14,000. Are y'all listening to me? Because some of y'all got kids who've been in special ed for 10 years. That means the school got 10 years times the extra $7,000. That's $70,000 more. And you know what's sad about it? The children who get the most money, the special ed children, ironically get the worst education. How the hell do the kids in that class get more money than the whole school put together, and they have the worst academic outcomes? Let me go a little bit further. If I'm a special ed teacher and I like my job, I might fabricate a lie on your child and say that they slower than what they are. They lower than what they are. Because once my class size drops to under 8 or 9, the principal see I only got 9 kids instead of the 15 I'm allowed to have. He might write my position out the budget next year. They're going to force me to transfer to another school. And I like this school because the black parents aren't involved, which means I ain't got to do shit. Can I keep it real tonight, brothers and sisters? They love to work in the ghetto schools. Oh my God, are you serious? Those parents don't show up. They don't care what you do with their children. Back to school night, the only people there are the teachers. I'm giving it to y'all real. Y'all think white people don't like the ghetto schools? They love them. No accountability to the neighborhood because the neighborhood don't care. I'm telling you what's real. Talking to a principal here. In fact, some of the parents, you got to wring their damn neck. I had parents, they had to beat the hell up because I was making it too hard for their children. Dr. Johnson, you told my son if he don't do his homework, you get a detention. You're damn right he is. I got to teach that boy discipline. Lord knows you not. He watching you argue with the principal against a consequence that he know he earned. Look at the message you're giving your son. This damn ghetto cycle ain't gonna never stop until we do something different. If you raise your children the way your parents raised you, nothing will change. Right. And that's why I want my school to be residential. I don't want y'all asses nowhere. Stay your ass in Tacoma. Some of y'all so trifling. Mommy, can you come get me Dr. Johnson? It's too hard. He got us cleaning and we're up early and push-ups and sit-ups. Let me go get my baby. Dr. Johnson, no, you're supposed to leave his ass there trying to make a man out that damn boy. That's right. And let the men raise the boys. Took my white Jesus. Speaking of white Jesus. Go in. Stomp it out. I gotta deal with this buttermilk. So my pastors keep telling me, and I speak at churches all the time, most people like me, but they're the ones with the white Jesus don't. And people say, well, what's wrong with the white Jesus? Color don't matter, the color of God don't matter. I said, well, really not, because I met a pastor in Florida last month when I spoke at the Marcus Garvey School in Jamaica fundraiser in Fort Lauderdale, who said that he was always told the color of God didn't matter. So he decided to get a painting of a black Jesus. And he said that painting that he got of a black Jesus years ago still ain't been hung up in his church yet. And he said he came to one conclusion. The color of God doesn't matter until you want to make God black. Then it matters a whole lot. Yeah. This is coming from a pastor. Brothers and sisters, the reason why you must burn down the white Jesus picture in your house is because your brain is an image saving and associating machine.
That's right.
The pictures you feed your brain, it will use and it will form all kinds of conclusions based on the image, because as the old adage goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So let's feel me now. You got a little child, and they go to Sunday school every Sunday. They go to church, they watch white Jesus every day. They never told that Jesus, they never told that God is white. They see that Jesus is the Son of God, or God, and he's white, right? So without nobody teaching him to love white folks, he automatically starts associating white Jesus with every white man he meets. And his brains begin to draw the conclusion that if God is white, maybe that's why the judge is white. Maybe that's why Bill Gates, the richest man in the world, is white.
Okay, let's go.
Maybe that's why the police are white. Maybe that's why everybody who owned the business are white, because they was all blessed by their white guy. And that's why many of us automatically adopt the servitude posture in front of white folks, because we was conditioned to serve white folks in Sunday school before we even got in front of a white teacher. The black community taught most of us to love white folks, not the white teacher. Right. So when you go home tonight, you got to burn that shit. Don't just throw it away, because somebody will get it out the trash. And don't cheat on your Jesus. And what I mean by that, some of y'all will say, okay, well, Dr. Umar can't talk about me. My Jesus not white. Y'all going to get a Jesus with a suntan. Now he look like Little Richard. Or Lionel Richie. He tan with a damn slick back. So and no shirt on with lipstick. So like Jesus. Y'all see him now, y'all got to play naked. Lips all sweet, all eyelashes. Metrosexual. Oh, I can't say. Brothers and sisters, last thing I want to say before we take our break. Emotional disturbance. Never let your child be evaluated for ED. This is called he's going to jail later diagnosis. How do you know the school wants to diagnose your child for emotional disturbance? It's real simple. They call you up and say he's having behavior or emotional issues. If the school ever says the word behavior or emotions, you know they want to diagnose your son as emotionally disturbed. Why? Because that's the only label. That's the only label. That's the only label in special ed that deals with emotions and behaviors. And once he's diagnosed with ED, what do? They lock him up in the basement around the corner from Freddy Krueger. He's not allowed to come out. Y'all see them kids, right? They don't learn shit because they all swinging from the roof, riding bikes on the ceiling. Right?
Like I said, nobody has to like Dr. Umar, but at least hear the truth in the message. Our children need it. I mean, they really do. I think probably Wednesday I'm going to come back with mine. I'm not going to play mine. I'm going to play one of Dr. Anderson's. And I was going to talk about education, but I think I want to talk about with Dr. Anderson the politics. I want us to start learning that we were not taught politics, is what I call it actually. And so we don't really understand what's going on, and so we get real upset. And again, most of the things that we do as a people, we do it out of our emotions, because that's pretty much how we were taught. When you're not given the knowledge of something, and if you don't go and seek it for yourself, you're honestly not going to know. And no one has to agree with me. I understand that. But I have to put the truth out. And the truth of the matter is, we all can learn from each other if we listen to the message. Because we can find fault in everybody, even ourselves. We just want to hear what we can hear to help these babies move along. That's my goal. This is going to come from Dr. Claud Anderson. And he worked under several presidents. And he helped develop educational programs throughout the United States. He has a thing called Powernomics. And this portion that I found here, he's going to be talking about voting and try to help us understand how our vote really count or don't count. So let's listen to Dr. Anderson. And then we'll call it a night.
Hello, welcome to Connecting the Dots on the Powernomics.com website. I'm Dr. Claud Anderson, your host. I'm glad to be with you, and I'm glad to be back from my little illness. And I'm gonna try to come with you at least once a week, and try to share some information with you and give you some suggestions about where we are, how we got there, and what you need to do to get out of where we are and get to a better place. Today, let me talk very quickly about the other big event of the day, which is not the virus, but this was about politics. And let's talk about politics right now, since we have a Democratic primary going on across the country. And I think one of the silliest things I ever seen in my life, I swear I can't think of anything in all my years that's sillier than this, but the Democratic Party hosts a Democratic primary and got 24 candidates for the President of the United States. You can't get any sillier or any dumber than that. And it's like, well, we're going to run, we're campaigning to get Trump out of the White House. What they did was to compliment Trump. Anytime you send 24 candidates to try to compete to figure out if they can deal with Trump, who's one man, you made him look like a giant, a powerful man in the White House. It takes 24 of y'all to try to figure out how to come against him. He sat there and just laughed and made jokes out of it. And the Democrats, what they should have done is they should have done what we used to do in the old days. What we used to do in the old days, rather than having 24 candidates running, you should go back into a back room and all you get together and discuss it and pick the strongest candidate you can get out of the 24 people and put him up there, let him run against Trump, and let the other 23 go out and run for local offices in different states against some of the Republicans, GOP that's in Washington, D.C., and the Senate, and try to get some of them out of there. Because they're in there right now. Trump is drawing his strength from those senators, those Republican senators. You should send 23 of those candidates out there to try to run for a public office against those Republican candidates if you really want to be serious about what you're doing. And the Democratic Party is foolish in that respect. Secondly, the Democratic Party has never explained to black people in this country that they're going to practice politics based on the simple premise of what politics is in place for. Politics is a process that decides who's going to get what benefits out of life, and who's going to get it and how they're going to get it. And yet the Democratic Party has never told black folk that. And so what you should be voting for out there is not for a political candidate based on his personality. Well, I like this candidate for this reason. I like that for that reason. You should be saying, I want to pick the person who's going to provide the most benefits to black people. If they're not going to provide any benefits to black folk, why are you voting? You go to the supermarket and you go in there and you starve to death. And you need some groceries. You go to the supermarket, walk up to the cashier and give him $50, say, I'm buying $50 worth of food. And you don't have to give me anything for it. Just take the $50 and I'm going back by my business. See, that's what the Democrats are doing. And black people don't understand that the Democratic Party has never, ever done anything in the history of this nation to be effectively do something for black folk. They didn't do it when they were the old Democratic Party. They were the old Democratic Party up to about the late 1950s. Then all of a sudden, when black folk left the old Republican Party to become Democrats, the old Democrats called Yellow Dog Democrats, they left the party and went over and joined the Republican Party to stay away from black folk. So the present day Democratic Republican Party is nothing but the old Dixiecrats from the South. And now they're going around bragging about they're conservatives. And black folk are saying, well, I'm going to vote for him because he's less conservative, he's more conservative, he's liberal. Neither have the liberals ever done anything for black folk. Just like the conservatives. Conservatives have never done anything for black folk. And they have no intentions to do anything for black folk. So what you need to do then is to go back and say, now we're going to have to play this game to win. And if you're going to play to win, look at my book, Powernomics. Go to chapter 7 that talked about becoming independent and building your own independent party. Neither party is going to do anything for you. As far as the present day candidates, if I was picking one and I'm not going to vote, I quit voting when I found neither party going to do anything for black folk. Out of all the candidates, most of the Democratic candidates haven't got a snowball's chance in hell right now winning. You got Sanders up there talking about, Sanders about, I'm going to bring in socialism. This country is not going to vote for socialism. That's never going to happen. Then you had another guy who's gay mayor up in one of the northern areas. I think it's maybe Gary, Indiana, someplace. And he's talking about he's married to another man in the White House. Nobody's going to vote for two men in the White House. One of them called himself the new lady, first lady, now to be the first man married to another man in the White House. He ain't got a snowball's chance. And the other one out there, you got Biden. Biden is weak. Biden has never done anything for black folk. You ask him, what are you going to do for black folk in terms of the principles of politics? He hasn't got one single thing he can offer to do and propose to do. Yet he'll go around these primaries, you find all these blacks rallying, trying to vote for Biden. On what basis? Well, because he was the vice president under Obama. Hell, Obama didn't do anything for black folk. That's not a positive being identified with Obama. For black folk, that's a negative. But all black folk are rallying to Biden. He ain't gonna make it. And you got, let me tell you, you got Warren, senatorial candidate, who was, she was a senator, I guess. Senator, yeah. And she was voting for, she's running for the president of the United States. And she's saying when she gets in there, first she's gonna look after Indians. So what I'm saying to you, if I was voting right now in the primaries and I don't vote, I'm never gonna vote again until someone come up with doing something for black folk. And the only person I've heard say that we're gonna do something is the guy right now, Michael Bloomberg rather, that's in there. He's the only one who's come out publicly and said, if I get elected to the president of the United States, I'm gonna do something for black folk. And as a matter of fact, I'm gonna be very specific. If I get to become the president of the United States, I'm gonna try to make 1 million blacks millionaires. Now that's the kind of talk black folks should be listening to. And he says, and I'm gonna help rebuild their communities and get better schools for them. He's the only one. Mike Bloomberg is the only one I've heard in all my years in politics and to the present time, and I've any candidate say, if I get elected to office, I'm gonna take care of those people who put me in office. Now, the Democratic Party is negligent. They're using black folk to pimp and hustle black folk. Why am I saying that? Because the Democratic Party right now is made up, their voting strength comes from black people. Black people make up about 38 to 40% of the Democratic Party, and yet they never get anything out of it. Not one penny is sent to black folk to repay them for putting a candidate in office. Now, black folk want to play and win. As I said, they should get out of both parties and go start their own party. And so someone asked me, I guess in one of the responses or comments, said, well, Dr. Anderson, how can we win if we're a minority? You can win. You represent 38 to 40% of the Democratic Party. That what that means is that you got a strong chance of being able to dictate what the Democratic Party is doing. And you can hold them accountable. If you withdrew with 40%, that means right now your voice is stronger than the Hispanics that are joining the Democratic Party. And most of the people that are not voting are the independents. That's where black folks have been going. I told them way back in the late 1990s, if you want to play politics to win, pull away from the Democratic Party, pull out the Republican Party and start becoming independents and vote as independents and vote strictly and solidly based on who promises the most and delivers the most to black folk. Get a contractual commitment for a candidate before you go out and vote for them. If they promise you nothing, that's exactly what you're going to get. Quit running around voting for people based on personalities. And because he's associated with this, he's associated with that. If they haven't done anything for black folk in approvable, measurable terms to elevate the quality of life and the wealth holding for black folk, don't vote for them. Don't vote for anybody who won't support you. And so right now, the best chance you got is Mike Bloomberg. He's the only one that's come out public and say he'll do something for you. And if I were you all, I would pull together my community and my neighborhood and go out and do block voting. So we're gonna vote in our neighborhood, in our community as a block for Bloomberg because he promised to do something for black folk. We're gonna hold him accountable for that. He has a contract with us and do it nationally where every black in America vote for one candidate that gives you power. And that's the best way you're gonna win. And don't worry about the independents. Right now, 67% of the people in the country are independents. They don't even vote anymore. 67% of those who are eligible to vote don't even vote because they pull out of both parties. So again, if you're going to play if you're going to be voting in these primaries, you better go out and get a contractual commitment from the candidate for the president of the United States to deliver something strictly and solely for black folk. Tell me, you want to hear about all that business about what they're going to do for everybody. What they're going to do for everybody else is a waste of time. You want to know what they're going to do for black folk. You are a permanent underclass in our society. I predicted that back in 2008, that by the year 2013 or 2015, that black folk become a permanent underclass. You're a permanent underclass. An underclass means those individuals who, by the pure nature of their social economic condition, must live as either beggars or criminals for the rest of their existence. That's why right now, all these campaigns have been going on now for primaries about the last year or so. Not one has come out and said, "I'm doing anything for black folk," except Bloomberg. So go out there, pull your people together, go to the polls and vote for those who promises most and delivers to black folk, irrespective of their skin color. Don't listen to the ministers or civil rights leaders or any water-leg politicians that won't stand up for you. As a matter of fact, in terms of reparations, just this past week, there is one of the most noted, visible blacks in the Democratic Party in Washington, D.C. He came out and said he would not support reparations for black folk because they could not prove or decide how much money each black folk would get. So therefore, don't give them anything. And said reparations now should be for everybody. He voted said reparations should also include whites. I have never heard anything that stupid in my life, but that's what he's proposing. And so he's sitting in Washington, D.C. as a lead black person in the Democratic Party talking about blacks don't need reparations because we can't decide on how much each one would get. How did they gave all the reparations funds to white Southerners after the Civil War? They didn't go count and figure out how much each one would get. They gave them a bunch of money. When they gave money, when Obama gave it somewhere between 26 and 36 million dollars to Jews in America about 3 years ago, he didn't make the decision based on what each Jew would get. He gave the money as a block. When and after World War II, in the Marshall Plan, we gave $6 to $8 billion to help Germany and France. It wasn't based on what each Frenchman would get or what each German would get. It gave it to the group, and they should do the same thing for black folk. I got all kinds of ideas on how that money could be used to help black folk when reparations come to it. I don't make my suggestions public because I got too many claim jumpers out there that would take it and run off the wrong way with it. If I said we're going to do this, head north, they would grab it and head south and say, "Look what I got." So I don't tell them what my plan is. I got a very comprehensive plan on how blacks can use reparations to get more wealth, more opportunities, how to build their communities, to strengthen their families and everything, and become a political power force in this country. Again, if you're going to vote, vote the right way. If you're not going to vote the right way, don't vote at all. And Steve said, "Well, Dr. Harrison, you're suggesting suppression. You're suppressing the black vote." I'm not recommending you not vote. I'm saying vote with some sense, where your vote count because it's based on a critical analysis of your condition. And that's not to suppress the vote. Your vote was suppressed in the United States Constitution in 1789 when they made you a permanent minority of a slave and classified you as a field animal and as a non-citizen and a non-human being. That suppressed your vote. Your vote right now is still being suppressed. It's being depressed or suppressed by the United States Constitution and about these civil rights laws now that are giving everything to everybody but black folk. That it's excluding you, they're depressing you, they're using your vote, and also they're suppressing your vote by bringing in an unending influx of immigrants into the country. Black folk people now are outnumbered in the voting booth 10 to 1, which means I don't care how a black person votes, he's outnumbered 9 votes by those who are against him. And keep in mind that 89% of people in the country don't give a damn about black folk one way or the other. And so if you're going to vote, vote based on your strength, vote for people who promise to deliver something for you, and stay black as long as you can, and respect and appreciate your own people. Don't hate anybody else. This is not about hating anybody. It's about caring about your own people first and foremost. Take care of yourselves, take care of your neighborhoods and your communities, take care of your own people, and vote the right way, but vote based on who promised you something. And if my word gets out there, maybe in the last moment, maybe Biden and Warren and Sanders would get out there and start talking about doing something for black folk rather than trying to say they're going to do something for everybody. That's the Democrats' problem right now. They always want to try to save the world rather than saving the people that put them in office. That's why the Republicans beat them every time. They can't beat the Republicans because Republicans vote based on what they call the 11th commandment, which means never say anything ill or bad about another Republican and vote as a bloc. That's why the Republicans will beat Democrats every time. They beat them when they were enslaved and then Jim Crow segregation when they were Democrats. Now the Republicans, who are still the same conservatives, are going to beat these Democrats again because the Democrats always want to save the world, try to save everybody rather than being responsible only to those people who put them into public office. They swear an oath to take and serve those people. Do it and quit mistreating and excluding those people who put you in the office from the benefits in our society. That's my word for today, my comments from the Connecting the Dots. You take care and have a pleasant day, and I'll see you at the next video taping. Bye-bye now.
So there you go. That was Dr. Claud Anderson. So I played these videos to kind of get you an idea of how it is for us and how these young men in the YSL and many other trials end up in the conditions that they're in. When you look at the education system and how they, diagnose our children and then put them on medication, then by the time they're in junior high school, they're taking them off the medication. And now they have the effects of the medication, then they start self-medicating. Then all kind of behaviors break out. Some of these people do things because that's just what they want to do and they choose to do it. Some people do it because they don't have choices to their knowledge and they believe this is the only way. But we, as mothers and fathers and people, they live normal lives as what we call normal. Because the question really becomes, what is normal? Used to be a dial on the washing machine. And now the washing machines are push button. So what do you call normal? And dare to have the conversations. Talk to a young person and see what their mindset is and what they're thinking about. I know in my city, Dallas, I don't know of anybody that they're really grooming for the next city council or the next mayor or the next county commissioners, state representatives, state senators. And that's a problem. We've got to start coming together as the people. And like Dr. Anderson said, as a block. It can start with the family and each family have the conversation. And then, they have the block parties annually. Do them maybe twice and maybe people can get together and see where they are. One thing I know that once you organize, you become an issue and a problem because we've been defeated because we are so divided. And we got to start standing on the principles of, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. We owe it to our children. We owe it to ourselves. And perhaps we can change this thing around. We've got to petition the people to help those young men in Atlanta. And perhaps this lady is going on with this case so that she can see these men get an acquittal. But an acquittal is not guaranteed. It's according to the jury. And the way that they're handling this case, there's so many wrongdoings. And we all can see it. I just don't understand why we're not outraged about it. It's very disheartening being a mother of an Asiatic son. Being a woman, period. And seeing how things are happening every day. I thank all of you guys for staying with me this long. And it's time for us to call it a night. I'm going to show my video with my conversation with Dr. Umar on Wednesday. And then we'll talk about what's happening in the YSL trial because I'm sure we're going to get some doozies coming up to Wednesday. I saw the video of Kenneth Copeland. He did, I think it's called DJU or something like that. That's a very good interview. Professor Nez had a good one with Ashley Merchant. Katt Not Williams is very good in her breakdown and analysis. I'm not a lawyer, but it's excellent. Some of the lawyers are pretty good, and I think you all should check those channels out. Liquid Concrete, she's just all over the place, and she do some good stuff. She covered a lot of different topics, and I think they're excellent. Infamous Sylvia covers the YSL trial from the inside of the courtroom. Cadillac Law, Evan Films. There's so many people that are covering, these stories. And, check them out and check out their style. I think that we all should support one another in whichever way we support. And for me, just showing up and giving me a like, commenting, and chatting does the body good. Hopefully, one day, more people will appreciate the research and the time and effort that I put in, and hopefully that they get out of and would start rewarding the channel with membership and super chats. Until then, I'll just keep doing what I do. I want to thank all of my supporters that give to me and that's here, whether they're in here chatting or they're on the replay. I want to thank everybody for all that you do. And of course, I believe the children are our future. And so I'll get ready to close it out with the greatest love of all. And everybody have a beautiful night and look forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday. I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense of pride to make it easier. Let the children's laughter remind us who we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone to fulfill my needs. A lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I failed, if I succeed, at least I'll live as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity, because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all. And if by chance that special place that you've been dreaming of takes you to a lonely place, find yourself in love.